As a first order of business, the chair would like to recognize the vice chair of the Board of Selectmen, Matthew Furlong, and ask you to stand so we can recite together the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Once again, the chair appreciates you being here early, and so we can start. We have a lot of business to take care of tonight, a fair amount of articles in the annual meeting and the special town meeting, as we always do. At the start of every annual meeting, we take a moment to recognize those who have served the town who have passed away over the past year. And there are several who have passed away fairly recently that we also want to recognize. And after we recognize them all, we will pause for a moment of silence. We'd like to recognize Janet Ford, election worker, who passed away about a year ago, Linda Mel Kern from the school department, who passed away last December, and many of you know Paul Trostel, a longtime member of the police department, who passed away in December. We also unfortunately lost 3 people who are very familiar, I'm sure, to regular town meeting goers, people who have been active participants in the town for many years, and the chair would like to take a moment to recognize those as well. First was Mary Ann Simmons, who passed away the end of January. For many years, Mary Ann served on the advisory committee. She served in the St. Thecla's Parish Council, the Historical Commission, Pembroke Arts Festival Committee. Mary Ann was a talented artist and painter. She taught for many years in Brockton and Rockland, and with her and her family members, they have together provided many years of service to the town of Pembroke in the almost 50 years that she lived in here. Chair would also recognize at this moment the Vice Chair of the Planning Board, Andy Wandel, to take a moment to recognize someone who we lost just in the past couple of weeks, someone who is very familiar to this meeting, the former chair of the Planning Board and the Community Preservation Committee, Brian Van Riper. Chair recognizes Andy Wandel.
Thank you. My name is Andy Wandel, and I'm a member of the Pembroke Planning Board, and I'm here to say a few words about my colleague, Brian Van Riper, who passed away a few weeks ago. As many of you know, Brian was an elected member of the Pembroke Planning Board for almost 18 years. Brian brought a unique perspective to the board. He was able to sweat the details when needed, but also had an uncanny ability to see the big picture from a zoning and planning perspective. His ability to provide vision and clarity made him the perfect person to help form and guide the town's master plan committee back in 2002. The committee drafted a comprehensive planning guide that wasn't just put on a shelf, it became a living document, thanks to Brian's work. It helped guide several zoning bylaw changes, including the establishment of the Pembroke Center Protection District, and I encourage you to take a look at that document if you get a chance. It's no surprise that many of the recommendations it made in regard to zoning and planning have been implemented, and the reason for that was Brian's quiet and persistent guidance and leadership. Brian also spearheaded the original Community Center Task Group. After more than a year of work with much input and discussion, a comprehensive plan was presented to the selectmen. Although it was never implemented, much of the work done by Brian and that committee is helping to guide the latest group that has been formed for that task. Brian was passionate about Pembroke's history and had a vast knowledge of its past. That made him the perfect person to lead the Community Preservation Committee. Thanks to Brian, CPA money has been wisely appropriated to preserving many of Pembroke's historical buildings and cemeteries. His work on the CPC also led to improvements to our recreational facilities and playing fields, and to maintain Pembroke's affordable housing units. Many see Pembroke as a rural town with much open space. Brian worked hard through the planning board to help craft zoning bylaws that would encourage growth but not sprawl. Today, vast swaths of open space remain untouched, bordered by new growth, but protected forever. Brian never hesitated to negotiate open space concessions from developers and had a vision to link our remaining open spaces through a network of trails and green spaces. Let's hope someday we can make that a reality in his memory. In a day and age when we have become cynical about local government, it's easy to just sit back and complain, but do nothing. Brian was the complete opposite. Not afraid to enter the fray, roll up his sleeves, and get to work. He defined everything good about civic involvement, from his coaching days for youth basketball to his thoughtful involvement in everything planning board related. Brian brought a passion, vision, and work ethic to serving his town. Many times after a long work session or meeting, Brian would turn to me and say, "Andy, I love this town." I want to leave you with one last thought. Recently, as I've been driving around town thinking about Brian and his work, I came to the realization that almost everywhere you go in Pembroke, you'll pass by or come upon something Brian has influenced and worked hard towards improving. I ask that you take a moment and say a quiet thanks to Brian as you drive past the First Church and through the Center Protection District, past our cemeteries and playing fields, even as you drive by a subdivision. In many cases, the open space beyond the houses was acquired thanks to Brian. Pembroke is a better town because of Brian Van Riper. To Debbie and his family, Greg, Brian, and Allison, we say thank you for letting him become such an important part of our community.
Thank you, Andy. And finally, the chair unfortunately has to report, for those who don't know, that just over the past weekend, former Selectman Hillary Wilson passed away. Hillary was an active member of the town for many years on the Board of Selectmen on advisory. The chair first remembers back when he used to, before he was involved in state government and town government, how he used to kind of hold court up when we had a balcony up there, put his hands on the railing and ask John Walsh for consideration, and always had something profound to say. So to say a few words in his memory, the chair recognizes his friend and former colleague, Selectman Lou Stone.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Hillary Wilson died last week at age 78. Hillary was a neighbor of mine for many, many years, and I got to know him well, especially in the last 20 years. Hillary was a member of the advisory board for a long time, and he served as their chairman. And he then decided to run for the Board of Selectmen, where he served for 9 years. Hillary also spent time at the Council on Aging and was instrumental in bringing to the COA the GATRA program, which provides the transportation for those elderly folks that really need it, at no cost to the town, by the way. Hillary was also a member of the Affordable Housing Committee. He was a great guy, and he deserves this tribute to him tonight, and I say, rest in peace, my friend. Thank you.
For all those that we have remembered this evening, the chair asks that the meeting take a moment of silence. Thank you. On a happier note, although it may be bittersweet for some, we have several members of our town government community who are retiring. This will be their last town meeting. And for the purposes of recognizing the first, the chair would recognize Town Administrator Ed Thorne, as well as Representative Josh Cutler.
Mary Ann. On behalf of the town of Pembroke and all the folks that work in Town Hall, we want to wish you the best retirement after 36 years working for the town, 27 in the building department, and the last 9 as town clerk, having served 3 3-year terms.
Thank you.
When I first came to Pembroke in '98, I mentioned to somebody that it was the noisiest town hall or city hall I'd ever worked in. And I think the reason why it was the noisiest is standing to my right here, I'll tell you that. But she's a great team player, and I think she's an inspiration for all of us that work in Pembroke Town Hall, that even an elected official that doesn't necessarily have to work in conjunction with the other department heads really made it a point to be part of the team. And we certainly appreciated that for her efforts for the last 36 years.
Good evening. Thank you very much. On behalf of Senator DiMacedo and I, we too wanted to bring our congratulations to you, Mary Ann. There's an expression, democracy isn't in the voting, it's in the counting. And when you think about that, I encourage you to think about that. It isn't important. And you know, we've thrown a lot at Mary Ann. We've had special elections, town primary, state primary, special state senate elections, you name it. And then we throw in early voting, online registration, and she has handled it with aplomb, with ease. And I think is most important is that whenever you go into the town clerk's office, you see a friendly face and a person who respects you. And I think we all feel that, and we all appreciate that. And so Senator DiMacedo and I wanted to bring a citation, not the kind of citation that Chief Wall gives out, the good kinds of citation to commemorate that. If you'll indulge me, I'd just like to read it briefly. Commonwealth of Massachusetts, be it hereby known to all that the Massachusetts House of Representatives offers its sincerest congratulations to Mary Ann Smith in recognition of your leadership, professionalism, and dedication throughout 36 years of service to the community of Pembroke. Did you start when you were 5? Is that?
Yes, I did.
The entire membership extends its very best wishes and expresses the hope for future good fortune and continued success in all endeavors. Given this day of May 2018, the State House, Boston, Massachusetts, signed by Robert A. DeLeo, Speaker of the House, Senator Vinnie DiMacedo, and Representative Josh Cutler. Mary Ann, thank you.
I just want to say thank you to the town of Pembroke. I enjoyed working. I started off as a teller right here at town meeting. So this is my 36th town meeting that I've attended. I want to thank every resident in Pembroke that has supported me, and I'll still be around. I'm not going anyplace. Thank you.
Chair now recognizes Dan Trabucco from the Board of Selectmen.
Thank you. So tonight, a colleague of mine, Lou Stone, will be having his last town meeting. He is leaving the Board of Selectmen, and we just want to congratulate him on the work that he's done for the town. For 9 years in the Board of Selectmen, he was a member of the Advisory Board, the member of the Planning Board, the Council on Aging, the Affordable Housing Committee. He's done a tremendous job for the town of Pembroke. And Lou has always been an even voice in everything he's done on the Board of Selectmen and elsewhere. Lou, on behalf of the Board of Selectmen and the town of Pembroke, a token of our appreciation, thank you for your hard work and dedication to the town, and good luck in your future endeavors.
But wait, there's more. You're not done yet, Lou. So I just Lou was one of the first people I met when I was first running for office. I still remember we sat down at Dunkin' Donuts in Pembroke Center, and Lou talked about, the Town Manager Act, he talked about recycling, and we talked about the Community Preservation Act, among some other things. And I was struck by exactly what Dan said. Lou brings a very open-minded, diligent approach to issues, and he studies the issues, and he comes down and makes his decision, but you know that he made his decision based on the best information out there. And I've always admired and appreciated Lou for his service throughout his career, and especially these last few years that we've had a chance to work together. So again, if you'll further indulge me, and I'm going to read it again because I think it's important, Senator DiMacedo and I want to present this citation on behalf of Lou Stone. House of Representatives, be it hereby known to all that the Massachusetts House of Representatives offers its sincerest congratulations to Mr. Lou Stone in recognition of your leadership, professionalism, and dedication throughout a decade of service to the community of Pembroke on the Pembroke Board of Selectmen. The entire membership extends its very best wishes and expresses the hope for future good fortune and continued success in all endeavors. Given this day of May 2018 at the State House, Boston, Massachusetts, signed by Robert A. DeLeo, Speaker of the House, Senator Vinnie D. Macedo, and Representative Cutler. Thank you. Congratulations, Lou.
Chair recognizes Mike Tropiano from the school committee. Perhaps. Oh, excuse me. All right. And Superintendent Aaron Obey, who needs no introduction.
So I could talk for hours about what a dedicated school committee member Ginny Wandel has been for the past 20 years, but that wouldn't even begin to do justice to the amount of energy, time, and love she has put in both at meetings and behind the scenes over the years to ensure that Pembroke Public Schools continues to deliver the best educational programming possible. Ginny has worked tirelessly as a school committee member since 1997. She was an integral part of our transition from Silver Lake and was a founding voice in the vision that we have for Pembroke Public Schools. For years, Ginny has advocated for educating the whole child and has always reminded myself and the committee members that this means so much more than just academics. Ginny has been a huge proponent of not only maintaining but growing the arts programs here in Pembroke, and she has been a constant supporter of developing social and emotional supports for our students, understanding that a student needs to feel connected to school in order to grow and flourish. She often refers to herself as Pollyanna, as she was always trying to find the good in the situation. The committee lovingly considers her the voice of reason, as she is the first to remind them of why they are all there and how we got to where we are as a school system. From myself, the members of the school committee, all of the students, staff, and family of Pembroke. Thank you, Ginny.
So Ginny's never been accused of being shy, but Ginny, why don't you come on up? Don't go away.
Wait a second, Jenny. Don't go away.
Oh, I might have shut it off.
So my dad had an expression that I've always found appropriate. Busy people get more things done. And when I think of that, I think of Ginny, who gets so much done, whether it's through Maggie's crew, her work with the Girl Scouts, her work through the Education Foundation, and obviously her work through the school committee and all the subcommittees and all the night activities and all the different things she does. Ginny's obviously a very passionate advocate for education. She brings a lot of enthusiasm to the role. But I think the thing I like best about Ginny, and we've been on the different side of a few things, but every time I see her, she gives me a hug. And you know, she brings civility to public service, which I think is so important, such a lesson that I need to take back with me to Beacon Hill, and hopefully we'll all learn from here. And I'm very appreciative of that, and very much glad that Senator DiMacedo and I could be here to congratulate you. And if I will indulge the crowd one more time, I'm going to read this because I think it's important. Be it hereby known to all that the Massachusetts House of Representatives offers its sincerest congratulations to Virginia Ginny Wandel in recognition of your leadership, professionalism, and dedication throughout 21 years of service to the community of Pembroke on the Pembroke School Committee. The entire membership extends its very best wishes and expresses a hope for future good fortune and continued success in all endeavors. Given this day of May 2018 at the State House, Boston, Massachusetts, signed by Robert A. DeLeo, Speaker of the House, Senator Vinnie DiMacedo, and Representative Josh Cutler. Ginny, thank you.
Josh said, just say something. I don't know what to say. I should say thank you. And my heart will always be in our schools. And, oh, she's going to make me cry. Thank you, Pembroke. I'm not going anywhere either, just like Mary Ann. I'll miss my seat at the school committee table, but my heart will always be here. Thank you.
Thank you. We're ready to proceed with business, and as the chair mentioned at the start, we do have quite a few items to deal with this evening. The chair just wants to quickly go over just procedure, just so if we particularly have new members in attendance, we welcome you, and we just want to fill you in on the, I think there's a mic on someplace. Fill you in. The tellers have been sworn in already. We have a visitors section up there, which is reserved for visitors who are not registered voters. I asked, and the tellers know this, that if you are a registered voter, you're welcome to sit there, but you won't be counted if we have any type of standing count if you were sitting up there. As you know, we have the lottery system. We have our high-tech bingo balls, which we use, and we have the annual town meeting is scheduled for 7 o'clock. We'll start that first. The special is scheduled for 7:30. We'll probably do the budget, maybe another article or two. We'll recess the annual, go into the special, and dispose of that. I think there's only 5 articles on the special. Does everyone have a copy of the warrant? And if you do not, I ask you to raise your hand, and the tellers will make sure. We get a couple folks in the back there. We have plenty of copies available. Having that is important to be able to follow along. As always, I ask you, the chair asks you to speak through the chair at the 2 microphones on either side. We've kind of gotten out of the habit of saying our names and street. Even if I recognize you by name, I ask you to try to remember to do that. You may think everyone in the room knows who you are, but they may not. The press may not know who you are, and the folks who are watching at home may not know who you are. So I just ask you to mention your name and your street. Again, I will try to recognize people who wish to speak in the order in which they stood. It's not always entirely possible to do that, but we'll try that. And the chair always gives deference to those who have not previously been spoken. If it is difficult for you to get to the microphone, not an issue. We now have these great, and the quality seems to be a lot better. I thank the school for that. Wireless microphone. So if it is difficult for you to get to the microphone, just raise your hand, and I'm sure your neighbor or a teller or someone will get you the microphone. But otherwise, I ask you to stand at the microphones to speak. The only exception to that is if you want to raise a point of order. The chair is fairly liberal in interpreting what a point of order is. It's essentially, Mr. Moderator, I don't understand, I can't hear. If you have a procedural question or you're not clear on what's going on, we don't want anyone to be confused. So just jump up. You can jump up from your seat and say, Mr. Moderator, point of order, and then you can state your point of order. A motion to move the question is always in order. It is not debatable. If you wish to move the question, you have to stand at the microphone. The chair will not recognize a motion to move the question from your seat. And it is non-debatable. The motion to move the question means we take a vote on whether to go right to the question or not. But again, the chair won't recognize someone who just shouts it out from their seat. And there is a very good primer in the beginning of the warrant as to some of the terms that we may be using here, if you're unfamiliar with, and some of the motions that are appropriate and the quantum of vote that's needed in order for those motions to pass. As always, I can't tell you how many years she's been out there, but Carol Dodge is selling just what we need to get us through an evening, sugar and coffee, caffeine. to benefit the Key Club. And as you might have seen coming in, Kathleen Keegan from the Pembroke Fund Committee is out there selling raffle tickets to benefit the Pembroke fireworks. 2 events coming up from the Pembroke Fund Committee. Pembroke's largest water balloon fight is a fun opportunity for young and old to celebrate the end of the school year and the beginning of summer. The largest water balloon fight will be in Thursday, June 21st, and will be held in the town green at 5:30. Don't forget BYOB, bring your own balloons and bathing suit. And the Pembroke Celebrates with fireworks is planned for September 15th, with family tailgating from 5 to 7:30. Kathleen assures us no fog this year, and fireworks to follow at the Pembroke High School. The committee is seeking sponsorships and donations for the event. If you're interested, you can see her out there. The reason for the Pembroke Celebrates event is to celebrate the wonderful folks who work and volunteer for our great town, and the chair urges you to attend, if not assist. Chair is satisfied that the warrant has been properly posted, so we will dispense with the reading of the warrant. As we always do, there are several votes that will require a 2/3 majority. And to save us time, the chair usually asks your permission to give the chair the ability to declare a 2/3, so every time we have to have a 2/3, we don't have to have a standing vote. So Mr. Boyle moves that if a 2/3 vote is required by statute, the moderator is authorized to declare a 2/3 vote if, after a show of hands, the moderator determines that the 2/3 majority has been reached. Provided, however, that if a vote so declared is immediately questioned by 7 or more voters, the moderator shall verify the 2/3 majority by ordering a standing count of the yeas and nays. Is there a second? Motion's been seconded. Any debate? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. And before we start the budget, which is the first item of business, actually Articles 2 and 3 are the first item of business. That is pursuant to a bylaw that this meeting passed several years ago, and then we'll go into the lottery system. Chair would like to recognize the Vice Chair of the Advisory Committee, Stephen Curley, to say a few brief words.
Good evening. I'll try to keep this short and sweet. I've already given a somewhat lengthy and detailed presentation, so I'll just hit some pertinent highlights. First of all, the town meeting has the authority to amend the budget and any other articles presented as you see fit. You can lower spending, increase spending, or leave it as presented. I would like to caution you as to the financial health of the town. Last year, we ended the town meeting with $308,000 in free cash. The year before, $1,261,000 and $533,000 the prior year. This year, if spending is as we propose, we'll have only $70,177 left in free cash. In the last few years, we've balanced the budget by using $200,000, then $400,000, and then $600,000 in free cash and other one-time monies. With $451,000 in snow and ice deficit already, we haven't got much room for capital spending next year. Again, the town meeting can spend as they wish. I just wanted the numbers to be fully disclosed. Thank you.
So we'll go right into Article 2, which is the wage and personnel schedule pursuant to the appendix that are Appendix D, which is in the back of the warrant. Chair recognizes Stephen Curley.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to amend Schedules A, B, C, and D of the classification and compensation bylaws according to the schedules listed and printed in Appendix D of this warrant, and to raise and appropriate from taxation the sum of $40,000 to fund the changes, and further authorize the town accountant to allocate the funds to the appropriate budget items voted under Article 3 of this meeting.
Is there a second? Chair hears second. The way we traditionally do this is the chair will refer to each salary schedule separately and will vote on them as a whole. If there are any amendments, and there is going to be one to one of the salary schedules, and the chair will point that out, please shout up and be recognized. So the first item under this article is, again, this is in Appendix D, which is in the back of the warrant, is Annual Salary Schedule A. It is the salary for full-time officers and employees. Are there any questions or holds? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving Annual Salary Schedule A, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Second item is Annual Schedule B, appointed part-time officers and employees. Are there any matters for debate? Seeing none, all those in favor of Annual Schedule B as printed in the warrant, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Hourly Schedule C, which is full-time, part-time employees. The chair, it's been brought to the attention that there is one change from what is printed in the warrant. In an SC 13, which is Council of Aging van drivers, all of those dollars amounts should be increased by $1. So 1432, 1459, 1493, 1521, 1556, and 1585. Is there discussion? Chair recognizes Mike Buckley.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Very brief. This does not require additional funding because it's supported by a grant.
Is there any further discussion on Schedule C? Seeing none, all those in favor of Schedule C with that one change, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Schedule D is the annual salary for elected full-time and part-time officials. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Schedule D, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. So we'll go on to the budget, which is Article 3. And before the chair recognizes, you're going to make a motion first, Linda? Yeah. Okay, before the chair recognizes Linda Peterson, the chair would state that this budget is perhaps a little different than others that we have debated in the past, in the sense that there are, as you might know, 5 line items that are part of the ballot question that are contingent upon a Proposition 2.5 override ballot question, which is on the ballot on Saturday. And the chair would state at the outset that the town election is actually part of the town meeting. It's the last article. So it's appropriate at this point to explain, so that everyone is clear, the implication of that ballot question, whether it passes or not, whether the implication of the votes of this meeting have on the outcome of that ballot question. So there will be 5 separate line items that when we get to those line items, 2 police, 2 fire, 1 DPW, advisory is going to move 2 figures, a higher figure and a lower figure. The higher figure will be contingent upon the successful passage of a Proposition 2.5 override, which is on the ballot on Saturday. The ballot's been printed. The question is already in print. The question cannot be changed. The question on the ballot includes $700,000, a little over $700,000 for the 3 departments, but there'll be 5 separate line items. So when we get to those line items, and it is purely up to this meeting what they want to do, whether you want a higher figure, a lower figure, or something in between. But if those contingency line items pass, and the Proposition 2.5 override passes, then the departments get the money and they have to spend it as you have directed at this town meeting. If the contingency questions pass, the contingency language passes tonight, and the ballot question doesn't pass, then we revert to the lower figure. And the motions will be clear so the departments will still have money if the ballot question doesn't pass, that the lower figure will come into play if the ballot question doesn't pass. Now, this third scenario is something that has been the subject of some discussion, and the chair wants to make sure that everyone is crystal clear about the implication of the town meeting potentially not approving the contingency language for one or all or several of the line items, and what the implication is for the ballot question. And for purposes of explaining that, the chair will recognize Town Council Joel Bard from Copeland and Page. Again, the scenario is, what if the override, the contingency language, does not pass at town meeting? We still have the election, we still have the ballot question. What happens? Chair recognizes Joel Bard.
Mr. Moderator, thank you. Joel Bard from actually now KP Law, modernized. So as the moderator stated, the question that is certainly murky on a lot of people's minds is what happens if the additional appropriations are not voted here, but then the ballot question on Saturday passes at the polls. Now the effect of that ballot question passing is to increase the town's levy limit, in other words, the amount of money that the town can raise through taxes, by $700 and some thousand. So if the ballot question, and I have the wording of the ballot question here, and I'm going to read it because it's short and it will help. So, and this is what you'll see on your ballot on Saturday. Shall the town of Pembroke be allowed to assess an additional $708,000 in real estate and personal property taxes for the purposes of funding the following departmental expenses: Police Department, $204,000, Fire Department, $204,000, and Public Works Department, $300,000 for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2018. So the three purposes are described in general terms: Police Department, Fire Department, Public Works. If, and I'm giving you this example just for purposes of illustration, if the amount had been, let's say, $700,000 to buy a fire truck, in other words, a very specific purpose, and if town meeting voted against that and the ballot question passed, then that money essentially couldn't be spent because there wouldn't be the right to purchase a fire truck because you all voted against it, and that purpose couldn't be achieved, if you will. However, this language is more general. It says police, fire, public works. And so regardless of whether or not town meeting votes for these higher appropriations, money will be spent for police, fire, and public works. So if you vote the ballot question but not the appropriations here, the money will be spent for those purposes, and therefore the town's levy limit will increase. And the additional money won't be spent, but money will be spent for public works, fire, and police. So I know it's a little confusing.
Point of information.
No, I want to let Joel finish first.
So I know it's confusing, but because the question is asked, well, what happens to the increased levy limit and the money that was authorized? It is the levy limit increases when you spend money for those three purposes. However, perhaps I'm anticipating the question, however, the amounts are still capped at what you're going to vote here. So for instance, the clearest example is Public Works, where when you look at the budget, you'll see a column that says the town administrator's budget. That is $25,000. And then the last column in the budget is the contingent budget, and that one is $325,000. So if town meeting only votes the $25,000, and this is for pavement management, if the town meeting does not vote for the extra $300,000, the town and its DPW will be limited to $25,000. So I want that to be clear. But the Department of Public Works overall will be spending more money, and that's what triggers the activation, if you will, of the elevated levy limit. I'm sure I've confused a good number of you, but it is confusing.
The chair would further ask that, just again to be clear, again, the contingency vote passes at town meeting, the ballot question passes, not controversial. The contingency language passes at town meeting, the ballot question doesn't pass, the extra money is not appropriated. The question that Joel has addressed is, what if town meeting does not pass the contingency language and the question passes. So just to further clarify, if that situation were to occur where town meeting does not approve the contingency language, the higher figure, and the ballot question passes, that money would still be available for the departments to spend, and we'd have to come back at a future town meeting to appropriate those funds. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's exactly right.
So the chair would state essentially, if that scenario were to happen, fails at town meeting, proves that the budget, is approved at the ballot box, then the meeting would have another bite at the apple to appropriate that money that had already been approved at the election, at the ballot.
That's right, Mr. Moderator. And just to clarify, and I know you said it, but when you say the meeting, you're anticipating perhaps a fall special town meeting. In other words, it wouldn't happen here, but it could, that appropriation could be made at a subsequent special town meeting later in the year.
So with that in mind, and I know there may be some more questions, and I'm sure this will be subject of debate when we get to those line items, but the chair wanted to try to clarify some of the confusion at the beginning. And this is very important because the chair is under the assumption that everyone here will be voting on Saturday, and so it's important for you to know that. And I'm sure there are folks who are listening, watching at home, who will be voting Saturday, and that's important for them to know as well. So as we always do, let's take the budget, which is Appendix A in the back of your warrant, and we will do each department one at a time. Now, the chair tends to go through this fairly quickly, so if you have a question, if you want to amend a figure, please just shout out, hold, or Mr. Moderator, and we will hold that one. Because every line item is subject to your approval and amendment. First item is the moderator's budget, wages and salaries.
I have a written motion.
Chair is in error. Chair recognizes Linda Peterson, Chair of the Advisory Committee. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $63,179,460 to fund the operating expenses of the town for the fiscal year 2019, as listed under Appendix A of this warrant, column headed 2019 Town Admin, adding thereto the additional quote-unquote contingency amounts as voted, which $708,000 is contingent upon affirmative action by the voters of the town on the ballot question to allow the town to assess an additional $708,000 in real estate and personal property taxes, and to fund this appropriation, raise and appropriate from taxation the sum of $61,534.741 and transfer the following sums: free cash, $500,000; Silver Lake Escrow Fund, $98,000; Ambulance Fund, $610,750; Septic Betterment Program, $93,360; Cemetery Funds, $26,307; Recreation Revolving, $11,850; Council on Aging Transportation Fund, $70,000; School Construction Surplus, $127,452; and School Athletic Funds, $107,100,000.
Motion's been made and seconded, so we'll take each department separately. First department is moderator, wages and salaries elected $100. Is there any question? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Board of Selectmen, wages, and again, the chair should point out that we are looking at the final figure that's in your list here, 2019 contingent. Board of Selectmen, wages and salaries elected, $9,000. Wages and salaries, $158,660. General expenses, $13,450. Purchase of services audit, $41,500. Purchase of services pond treatment, $92,965. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Town Administrator, wages and salaries, $144,291. General expenses, $3,750. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Legal purchase of services, Meeting will be in a brief recess. Thank you. The meeting will come to order. The chair stands corrected. The correct column to read, although with the exception of 5 places they're the same, is the town administrator's column, second to last one. Legal purchase of services, $115,000. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Advisory Committee, wages and salaries, $6,836. General expenses, $581. Reserve fund, $50,000. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Town accountant, wages and salaries, $127,211. General expenses, $51,800. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Board of Assessors, wages and salaries elected, $5,400. Wages and salaries, $248,754. General expenses, $37,150. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Treasurer Collector, wages and salaries, $359,582. General expenses, $79,885. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Data processing, general expenses, $64,475. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Town clerk, wages and salaries elected, $84,660. Wages and salaries, $50,399. General expenses, $12,320. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Elections, wages and salaries, $50,000. General expenses, $23,000. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Registrations, wages and salaries, $7,600. General expenses, $8,700. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Conservation Commission, wages and salaries, $0. General expenses, $935. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Planning Board, wages and salaries, $50,082. General expenses, $2,240. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Zoning Board of Appeals, wages and salaries, $0. General expenses, $2,600. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Town Hall Maintenance, wages and salaries, $93,210. General expenses, $106,592. The chair would ask, is this where the town clock winder? Is it in this budget? No. Separate still? Okay, good. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Police Department. Now, this is the first item, department that will be debated, and the chair recognizes Linda Peterson from Advisory Committee.
Mr. Moderator, move to appropriate $3,562,701, contingent on the affirmative vote of the town on a Proposition 2.5 override ballot question, provided that, should the ballot question fail, $3,407,201 be appropriated.
Is there a second?
Second.
Chair hears second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of the motion by Linda Peterson, please raise your hands. All those opposed, please raise your hands. The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. General expenses, Police Department, the chair recognizes Linda Peterson.
Mr. Moderator, move to appropriate $336,402, contingent on the affirmative vote of the town on a Proposition 2.5 override ballot question, provided that, should the ballot question fail, $287,902 be appropriated.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of the motion by Linda Peterson, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. Fire Department is the next item of business, and again, these two line items are line items that will also be, it will be proposed they be subject to an override for wages and salaries. The chair recognizes Linda Peterson.
Mr. Moderator, move to appropriate $3,370,011 contingent on the affirmative vote of the town on a Proposition 2.5 override ballot question, provided that, should the ballot question fail, $3,207,711 be appropriated.
Should be 3,206,711?
Yes, 206.
3,206,711.
Correct.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your hands. All those opposed, please raise your hands. The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. Second item in the Fire Department is general expenses. Chair recognizes Linda Peterson.
Mr. Moderator, move to appropriate $196,700 contingent on the affirmative vote of the town on a Proposition 2.5 override ballot question, provided that, should the ballot question fail, $156,000 be appropriated.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? You could state your name and street.
If I can remember it, my name is Ed, Mountain Ave, 24. What are we spending the extra money for? And could you explain, maybe you already have, what effect it'll have on the tax rate?
Chair recognizes somebody. This is the general expenses. Chair recognizes Fire Chief Mike Hill.
Hi. The increase in general expenses is for maintenance, more equipment. Recently, over the last couple of years, about $30,000 has been taken from the expense account, so I would like that back. That's about it.
There was a second part of the gentleman's question, and maybe I could ask advisory to address it because Chair can't imagine and isn't on other people's minds as well, and that is the effect of the, I don't know if you can...
Mr. Moderator, we'll defer to the town assessor.
Chief Assessor, Appraiser.
Thank you,
Kathy
Mr.
Salmon.
Moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, the impact of the override at $708,000 for an average single-family home, the average home value in the current year is $375,000. So if you had a home that was valued close to that, the impact for the year would be approximately $105. It would be more if your home was more valuable, less if it was less valuable. Thank you.
Again, the chair would just point out that the gentleman's question might have been particular to that line item, but your answer was an answer to the impact of the overall question, the 700, because the question won't be broken down. Is that correct?
That's correct, because the question is for the total $708,000.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this item, which is general expenses, Fire Department? Motion's been made by Linda Peterson, has been seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Chair, let's do it this way. Town bylaw says we're supposed to do a show of hands, so we'll do it that way. All those in favor of the motion by Linda Peterson, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. In order to expedite the budget process, the chair doesn't ask for a show of hands for every single line item, otherwise we'd all be going to the chiropractor. The next item is the Department of Inspectional Services, wages and salaries, $411,024. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Building Department, wages and salaries, 0. General expenses, $12,400. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no.
Mr. Moderator, if I could,
Well, we're in the middle of a vote, so we gotta finish the vote. Let's do it again. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Chair recognizes Stephen Curley.
just to clarify, if you notice the large number for the inspectional services going from 195,000 to 411, that's really with things like the zoning boards of appeal going to zero, and the building department going to zero. There was a consolidation of departments, and that's why there's some large swings in these departments.
Thank you for that clarification. Next item of business is emergency management, wages and salaries, $2,699. General expenses, $9,511. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Dog officer, wages and salaries, $51,471. General expenses, $6,750. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Pembroke Public Schools, $33,259,352. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Department of Public Works. Now we'll do 3 of the line items. Pavement management will once again be subject to the contingency override if you so choose, and that will be offered by advisory. But let's do the other 3 first. Wages and salaries, $942,032. General expenses, $262,788. Snow and ice, $125,000. Any discussion on those 3 line items? Seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The chair recognizes Linda Peterson.
Mr. Moderator, move to appropriate $325,000 contingent on the affirmative vote of the town on a Proposition 2.5 override ballot question, provided that, should the ballot question fail, $25,000 be appropriated.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? The chair recognizes the chairman of the DPW, Ben Bastianelli.
Mr. Moderator, is this appropriation a one-time money?
Well, appropriate answer would be from someone other than the chair. Chair
Mr. Moderator.
recognizes Dan Tribuco.
Mr. Moderator, at the town meeting, this vote that we take here tonight and Saturday at the ballot box will appropriate all these monies, these contingency monies, for 1 year earmarked to what we voted on here. After 1 year, according to state law, it goes into the general fund. That's how state law works. But how gentlemen and gentlewomen work when we do the budget together, the townspeople voted the money as they did with the schools. Just 2 years ago, the schools voted an override. 1 year earmarked for the schools, went into the general fund after that, and we got together as a team. Everyone here is a team. We got together as a team and kept that money within the schools. The money earmarked for the firefighters, police, and for the roadway maintenance will be in the general fund, but it will be agreed upon by us to put forth to the next town meeting. No one here at this table can vote the budget. Only you folks can. Only town meeting can. That's why it only stays in for 1 year and goes into the general budget. It's because only town meeting can vote the budget. We, even though we agree to put $300,000 for now and forever into the DPW's budget, and that's what we'll propose to town meeting, you folks are the only one that have the authority to spend it. That's the reason for all that.
Chair recognizes Ed. Did I get it right? Ed, do you have a last name?
But I don't remember that either.
Okay.
Steele.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Ed Steele from Mountain Ave.
Thank you. So that means that we have the override forever? Like forever? Okay.
Is there any,
Moderator?
Chair recognizes Dan Tribuco from
Sorry,
the
I
Board
don't
of
want to
Selectmen.
just give you a nod. Yes, this, to be clear, this is an operational override of $708,000 that'll raise the tax levy permanently. And the reason this is a permanent override rather than a debt exclusion is that the police, the fire are going to keep those people for now and forever. The DPW is going to fix your roads from now and forever. That's why it's permanent. Folks, one thing to remember though, the original line item for the DPW for roadway maintenance is only $25,000. That and what they get for Chapter 90 money through the state. The Chapter 90 money through the state that they get, they cannot use legally on unapproved roads. So all the people that live in the ponds, where your roads only get little patches here and there, this $300,000 that we're going to vote on will go to those roads because they're not pigeonholed by the state. They can use it as they see fit. The DPW will use that for those unapproved roads and use the state money on the accepted ways that they need to use it on. So they needed the money. The DPW has been starved. If you wonder why there's potholes, because they've been starved for money. Every time they ask for money for potholes, we take it, we put it to this department, that department, and they've been left behind. It's their turn now, and that's what we're here presenting for you today.
Chair recognizes, gentlemen, if you could state your name.
Mr. Moderator, Tim Landy, Oakland Square Drive. I just want to make sure I understand this.
A little closer to the microphone, Tim.
Tim Landy, Oakland Square Drive. So I just want to make sure I understand this. All the override does is it raises the amount, the total amount, the taxes the town's allowed to collect, correct? Yes. And then what we do here every year is we decide how much money we actually want to spend. Two different things. All right. So today, we vote how much we're going to spend. Saturday, we vote how much the town might collect, contingent on how much we decide to spend. Isn't that true? All right. And then every year we come back here and we decide how much we want to spend again. So we don't necessarily have to spend every dime we override. We have that choice every single year. And where we put it, we have that choice every single year. Correct? Okay, thank you.
Chair recognizes Maria Karras.
Maria Karras, 400
Karras.
Washington Street.
Chair would just mention you're speaking from the floor, not advisory, but Maria is the newest member of advisory committee, so we welcome you to advisory.
Thank you. I just got a question regarding the excise taxes. Where does the excise taxes funds go to? Does it go to the DPW to fix the roads?
Well, Chair would ask perhaps Town Accountant Mike Buckley to
Thank you.
answer that question.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The excise taxes go to the general fund to support the budget as a whole.
The Chair recognizes and the Chair apologizes for forgetting Terry, no. Cheryl Riley. Chair recognizes Cheryl Riley.
Now, the money that if it passes at town meeting Saturday, will the money will be spent on all unaccepted roads of the town of Pembroke, or just by the chosen that they choose to?
Chair recognizes Ben Bastianelli.
That's a very good question. And it's one of the things that we at the DPW are struggling with, because this appropriation to dump $300,000 into the DPW road maintenance fund just as a lump sum number brings up that very problem. We get Chapter 90 money. Chapter 90 money cannot be used on unapproved roads. So what we've maintained as a policy to try to make sure that everybody in the town gets some benefit from the money is spent, we've concentrated on the main roads, and we've been working on those. We don't have enough money to complete the main roads. We've been working on them for years, as you can see. We were fortunate enough to get this Route 14 project established, and shortly Route 36 will be established and will be constructed. However, it will take us another 7 to 10 years to finish what we call the main roads. Now, when you dump $300,000 into the DPW for road maintenance, obviously, we have people in the town who live on unapproved roads, and they deserve to have the money. So if we turn around and do that and spend all $300,000 one time, 1 year on unapproved roads, now we've set a precedent that why shouldn't the Chapter 90 money be spent on some of the cul-de-sacs and side streets that we've ignored for years? And we don't have an answer for that question. So what will happen is there will be a lot of unhappy people. There will be a lot of questions as to why we do what we do. There will be a lot of discontentment as to why we spent the money where we spent it. And we really don't know, honestly, what to do with the $300,000, whether to spend it all on the unapproved roads, which those people certainly have suffered for years, or take a portion of it and put the rest of it into the bigger road maintenance program. So to be honest with you, we don't really want the money at this point in time. We'd rather have had more discussion as to how it was going to be appropriated than to just have it dumped into an override. And we think we're only going to get it for 1 year. And to be honest with you, it's not going to do a lot for a 1 year appropriation.
Chair recognizes a gentleman to my right. If you could state your name.
Stephen Van Ness, Queensbrook Road. Goes to your point about planning. Is there a plan set out for that? And specifically, how long is that plan going out for?
Chair recognizes Ben Bastianelli.
We have had a road maintenance plan that was drafted up probably 6 or 7 years ago. And that road maintenance plan was laid out according to roads and their need for repairs and the magnitude of those repairs. And we sought funding for that road maintenance plan. And we were told if we put the plan together and presented it, it would be backed and we would get funding. That's never happened. And as a result, we've gone to the Chapter 90 and done what I said, taken care of the larger roads in an effort to, benefit the maximum amount of people in town. We need this $300,000 permanently plus in order to have a road maintenance plan and follow the plan that we developed, which has a hierarchy. Then you would see some of the side streets and the cul-de-sacs and other roads being addressed. My street, and I'm a DPW commissioner, anybody that would like to come in the summertime, I cut the grass in the cul-de-sac. It grows through the pavement. So my street isn't getting taken care of either. We have a plan, we can't follow it, we're not funded adequately or properly, and one-time money isn't going to help us.
Is the
we
town
need it
notified?
permanent.
Is the town notified
I have to,
about this?
Just as a
About the
point,
plan?
you have to address the chair. I can't allow, there's a lot of people that want to speak, so I'll allow you one follow-up question, but then we have to move on. There's a lot of people that want to speak.
I just want to know if the townspeople are made aware of any plan. Is it put to the public?
The road maintenance plan has been published. It exists in the DPW office, and it has been published many times on the website. And anybody that would like to can go by the DPW office, and you can see it, and you can see the hierarchy of how the thing was set up. We do not follow it because it's not funded properly, and therefore we can't.
Chair recognizes this. If you could
Paula
say your name.
DeMello, 400 Washington Street.
Paula.
My question goes to all the three lines of for example, like Mr. Bastianelli is talking about, the $300,000 that is supposed to go to the DPW in the first year. Then the second year and the following years, does that go back into the general expenditures of the town, or does it continue, all of the extra monies continue in the specific departments?
Chair recognizes, for purposes of answering that question, Steve Curley from Advisory.
Mr. Moderator, legally, the money does not have to continue to be spent through the DPW. But As Dan mentioned, and we'll reiterate, we have a moral obligation to continue it. Just as we did with the school department, it became a part of their budget, and that was the base for the next year. Our commitment is that we will try and keep that money in the DPW, for as long as we're voting on it. But as Dan also mentioned, the final say on any appropriation is the town meeting.
Chair recognizes Jason Federico from the DPW.
Yes, Jason Federico, DPW Commissioner. I'd like to stress the point, we do have a plan in place. If we do get the funding, there is a plan for how to spend that money year after year after year, based on whether it's an approved or unapproved road. That, all the money is not going to be put just to unapproved roads. It's going to be done based on a need on the roads, based on a report done by an engineering company that we paid for.
Chair recognizes this gentleman here.
Sean Nicotera, Queensbrook Road. I just want to make sure I heard Mr. Bastinelli correctly. You said the DPW does not want the money? Did you say that correctly?
That is correct. If
You
it's
don't
a-
want the money?
If it's a one-time appropriation, we don't want it.
Right, but
we
we
can't do anything with it.
So we can't guarantee the money will go back to the DPW, but they're saying that they can. So I just want to make sure everybody hears that the DPW does not want this money.
Chair recognizes Town Administrator Ed Thorne.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. This plan that's been in place for 6 or 7 years, as the DPW Commissioner says, is true. And as Jason Federico said, there is a plan in place. The $800,000 that would be a combination of Chapter 90 money, and we get $556,000 a year, plus this $300,000. If you look at their plan, and I did a PACTV show a couple of weeks ago regarding this, it shows that the $800,000 would allow the town to stay ahead of the curve in doing streets. Now, the combination of the Chapter 90 money and the $300,000 appropriated by this town meeting and at the ballot would allow the DPW commissioners with their plan to do every year a combination of unaccepted roads and accepted roads that are eligible in Chapter 90 money. They've wanted money for years. You have the opportunity to give them that money. What they wanted a couple of years ago, they wanted $10 million. So I think $300,000 is a fair dent in their the plan for $850,000 worth of street paving every year. And obviously, you know that there's a town administrator's budget every year, and that definitely the town administrator and any future town administrator would definitely want to continue that $300,000 increase in that particular line item. So I would suggest that town meeting look at this very favorably and add $300,000 to the pavement management plan. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the gentleman standing in the black, not previously having spoken. If you could state your name and street.
Hello, my name is Nicholas Adams. I live at 4 Pembroke Drive. I'm not surprised probably no one in this room recognized me because this is my first town meeting. I just turned 18. And as a young person who has just started driving, just going to start paying for all these expenses, in a kind of very low-income job, I work at Staples right in Church Street down there. I am still willing to pay. I'll start helping my mom out soon with paying for these kinds of expenses. I'll still be willing to pay that $105 a year as long as I can be assured whether the DPW wants it or not, is it going to make an impact on the town's roads?
Chair recognizes Ben Bastinelli.
Just to clarify the point, once and if this town votes an override, the next year, after the DPW has gotten the $300,000 for 1 year, there is an ability not to give us any more money. However, once you've voted that override, you've hired police and fire, and they're going to get the money under wages and salaries, but we're the loose cannon that may or may not get funded. So when everyone stands here and says, we have a moral obligation, We've had a moral obligation for a lot of things in this town for a lot of years, and I've sat here many, many times and watched that moral obligation go right out the door, and the money never gets appropriated, and it never gets to the place it needs to be. So that's the reason that we're dragging our feet as the DPW. We want it permanent, definitely be told that we're gonna be cared for like additional people that are going to get hired under the override so that we can fix the roads. We don't want you to sit there and think we're gonna get $300,000 this year and then 2 years from now, you're unhappy because your road hasn't been fixed and you don't know that we didn't get any money. And that's the issue.
Chair recognizes a gentleman here. Brian.
Forest Street. An unapproved road. I didn't think we would work on till it was approved by the town. We used to have to, in the old days, I don't know now, but we used to have to vote on approving these roads. So if they're unapproved, how can you do anything with them?
Chair recognizes Ben Bastianelli.
The road maintenance line item that we're discussing of $25,000 was set up and appropriated to work on unapproved roads.
But that isn't the question I asked. The question I asked, if it's an unapproved road, don't we have to vote to approve it? We used to, I don't know now.
No, we have to vote.
Chair recognizes Ben Bastianelli, and then we've got to move on. We've got others who want to speak.
We have to vote whether we approve and accept roads. You are correct. And they have to meet certain standards.
Right.
But the line item we're discussing was created for those roads that could never be approved. They're unapproved roads. We can never accept them. But we needed money because those people pay taxes as well, and they need infrastructure, and they need pavement, and they need whatever it is on those roadways. So we have this small sum of money, $25,000 annually, to take care of their needs. And this money now being dumped in there doesn't necessarily mean it's all going to go there.
Chair recognizes Beth Dwyer.
Thank you. Can we move the question? Borderline campaigning.
The motion has been made to move the question. Is there a second? It is not debatable. All those in favor of moving the question, which, if is successful, we will go right to the vote on the question, which is the amendment, the motion made by Linda Peterson. All those in favor of Beth Dwyer's motion to move the question, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. On the motion by Linda Peterson on the DPW pavement management line item, all those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. So we're back to meeting being a very brief recess. Meeting will come to order. The next item of business is townwide utilities, general expenses. Again, we're still in the budget here. The amount is $203,277. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Board of Health, wages and salaries, 0. General expenses, $27,610. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Council on Aging, wages and salaries, $190,363. General expenses, $44,733. Senior tax program, $5,000. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Veteran Services, wages and salaries, $72,159. General expenses, $2,100. Benefits and medical, $150,000. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Commission on Disabilities, general expenses, $705. Any discussion? All chair recognizes, got to jump up to the microphone. Ed. whose last name the chair has already forgotten. Is it Green?
No,
Steele, close.
Yes.
Mountain Ave.
My question is, I'm not sure if I have a disability, but I'm on a fixed income. And I wanted to know if anyone had considered the people in town who are on a fixed income.
Well, the chair can't compel anyone to answer the question, but it's a good question, and if there's an answer that someone can provide, the chair would encourage it. Otherwise, we would have to go to the vote. So just someone at Town Hall can answer your question, I'm sure, Ed. On the motion of $705, any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Library wages and salaries, $564,485. General expenses, $59,800. Books, $90,000. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Lydia Drake Library, general expenses, $5,000. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Recreation Commission, wages and salaries, $96,716. General expenses, $12,080. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Community Center, wages and salaries, $27,493. General expenses, $49,806. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Herring Fisheries, general expenses, $1,800. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Town Landing, wages and salaries, $44,092. General expenses, $1,600. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. This is the chair's favorite. Town Clock Winder, wages and salaries, $1,487. Is there any discussion? Who's the town clock winder? Bob Pines. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Town Memorial Committee, general expenses, $5,910. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Plymouth County Cooperative, general expenses, $107. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Historical Commission, general expenses, $2,000. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Maturing debt principal, general expenses, $843,502. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Maturing debt interest, $208,201. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. General maturing debt principal excluded, general expenses, $1,555,000. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Maturing debt interest excluded, general expenses, $581,875. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Short-term interest, general expenses, $45,500. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Plymouth County Retirement, general expenses, $3,252,447. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Unemployment compensation, $100,000. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Group health insurance, general expenses, $8,694,543. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. General expenses, $20,000. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Medicare tax, general expenses, $525,000. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Property and liability insurance, general expenses, $718,500. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. On the budget, as moved originally by Linda Peterson, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Those opposed, please raise your hand. The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. The chair would state that after all that discussion, at the start of the budget article, that since those contingency votes passed at the meeting, if they pass at the ballot box, so don't forget to vote one way or the other, then they would pass. If the override fails, then we would revert to the lower figure. So we'll go to the first consent. Several years ago, the town passed a bylaw allowing this meeting to do a consent calendar, which allows us to combine non-controversial items into one vote. And this is your decision whether to do this. The chair can state unequivocally that the items that are included in this consent agenda are items that, in the chair's recollection, have never been debated. But if you want to pull one out and debate it, you're certainly welcome to do so. And the ones that we will combine are Articles 1, 6, 9, 23, and 26. They're all grouped together at the very beginning of your warrant, so you can see them all together. So Steve Curley from Advisory moves that the town take Articles 1. First of all, is there any of those articles that someone wishes to pull out of the consent agenda? Seeing none. Steve Curley from Advisory moves that the town take Articles 1, 6, 9, 23, and 26 out of order, and that they be passed by consent in accordance with the motion shown on the consent agenda that is printed in the warrant. Is there a second? Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. All those opposed? The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. Now, to the ping pong balls, and the first item of business is Article 17. We'll do one, and then we'll go to the special. How about that?
Mr. Moderator.
Article 17, the chair recognizes Police Chief Rick Wall.
Move to authorize the hiring of 2 additional police officers.
Is there a second? Is there a second? Chair here, second. Chair recognizes Chief Wall.
So we have a town bylaw that requires me to come ask, and I think it's the right thing to do about hiring additional personnel. There was a little flyer that went around. You might have got one on the way in. And one of the questions right in the middle, does Pembroke need additional police officers now with one of the lowest crime rates around? I have to say we were number 30 on a study that they did as far as crime rates, but absolutely. We don't want to wait until we have crime in order to hire police officers to do the job we should be doing. I'd like just to take a real quick kind of visual of where we're at, because I don't really like talking about shifts and how many people we have manned on the road. But I'm just trying to make shift level okay. If everyone could just do the okay symbol for me, do that in your hand. This is visual. Play along. Now point your finger and thumb to the ground. See the fingers that you can see looking at your face? That's how many police officers I have on the road, a minimum 2 shifts out of 3. I'm just trying to get one more. I think a town this big, we deserve to have a safe police department, safe for you and safe for my officers. We do a lot more now than just locking people up and writing tickets. It's all about social services. We're protect and serve, and we should change that around to serve and protect. And I just need you to understand that we provide quality service, but I have to make sure that we can continue to do that in this day and age. Men and women of the police department work their hearts out, and that's why we're doing as well as we are. But the battle's not over, the job's not done. 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, we're out there. And I have one officer every day in the station on the desk. That's all. We don't have dispatchers. We do all the EMD calls, we do all the 911, we do everything in the station. So where we should be is 36 police officers for a town our size. That's the state average, and that's what IACP, the International Association of Chiefs of Police, recommend to have. This will bring us up to 33. But this will make my patrol staffing level safe. And that's what I'm looking to do. Thank you.
The chair would just state that the funding for these additional officers was one of the contingency questions, line items that was voted on as part of the budget and will be subject to the override on Saturday. So is there any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion by the chief, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. And Arthur Boyle moves that the meeting be in recess. Is there a second? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The annual town meeting will stand in recess, and we will go to the special town meeting, the warrant for which is included inside your annual town meeting warrant. And the chair will once again revert to the very high-tech salad bowl. For the first item is Article 2. Chair recognizes Steve Curley from Advisory.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town transfer from solid waste surplus the sum of $11,387 to provide for the unpaid bills from fiscal year 2017 printed in Article 2 of the special town meeting warrant.
Any discussion on this matter? This requires, since it is an unpaid bill, it requires a 9/10 vote. So we'll try it with a show of hands. All of those in favor of the motion by Steve Curley, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. And I declare it unanimous, which is better than 9/10. I declare it so voted. Next item on the special is Article 3. And the chair recognizes John Brown from Advisory.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Move that $180,000 is appropriate for repairs, reconstruction of town buildings, that to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, is authorized to borrow $180,000 under Chapter 44 of the General Laws or any other enabling authority, and that the Board of Selectmen is authorized to take any other action necessary to carry out this project. Any premium received by the town upon the sale of any bonds or notes approved by this vote, less any such premium applied to the payment of the cost of insurance of such bonds or notes may be applied to the payment of cost approved by the vote in accordance with Chapter 44, Section 20 of the General Laws, thereby reducing the amount authorized to be borrowed to pay such cost by a like amount.
Is there a second? Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? This is one that requires a 2/3 because it's a borrowing authorization. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion by John Brown, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. And I declare it so voted, having reached the necessary 2/3 needed for passage. Next item is Article 5. Chair recognizes Maria Karas.
Mr. Moderator, I move to appropriate $100,000 from water surplus for the installation of a new water main, fire hydrant, and costs related to water services, Montclair Avenue.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Simple majority needed. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Who knows where Montclair Avenue is? I declare it so voted. It's up by the school, right? Article 4 is the next item. Chair recognizes Jim McCollum.
Mr. Moderator, Move to appropriate $105,000 from water surplus for the purchase of a dump truck with plow, sander, dump body, and hoist setup.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Chair recognizes Ed Steele from Mountain Ave.
Sorry. How long will we be paying for the expense? Is it a one-year deal?
Chair recognizes Town Accountant Mike Buckley.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. This will be a one-shot expense.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those voting in favor of the motion by Jim McCollum, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. Last item of business on the special is Article 1. Chair recognizes Linda Peterson.
Mr. Moderator, move that the sum of $168,250 is appropriated to supplement fiscal year 2018 appropriations and to fund these supplements that $6,250 be transferred from Town Hall wages and salaries to the account of Town Hall general expenses, $20,000 be transferred from overlay surplus to the account for Police Department general expenses, $12,500 be transferred from overlay surplus to the account for fire general expenses, $10,000 be transferred from DPW wages and salaries to the account for DPW general expenses, $60,000 be transferred from overlay surplus to the account for DPW general expenses, $15,000 be transferred from water surplus to the account for DPW general expenses, $2,000 be transferred from Town Hall wages and salaries to the account for Community Center wages and salaries, $27,500 be transferred from overlay surplus to the account for unemployment assessment, and $15,000 be transferred from solid waste surplus to the account for solid waste general expenses.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Michael
Chair.
Keeley, 140 Forest Street. Just one question. I assume we're over budget on all these other line items that we're moving the money from? Thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion by Linda, please raise your hand. All those opposed? The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. And the chair would entertain a motion to, Arthur Boyle moves that the special town meeting be adjourned. Is there a second? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The chair will call the annual town meeting to order, and we'll resume with the warrant on Article 3 we did, right? It's the budget. Article 10.
Mr. Moderator.
Chair recognizes Steve Walsh from Advisory.
Move that the town authorize the Board of Selectmen to approve an agreement for the payment in lieu of taxes, quote, pilot agreement, as negotiated by the town administrator between the town and the Brigham and Women's Physicians Organization, quote, BWPO, or its successors or assigns, for real and or personal property attributed to the medical office building / facility to be located on approximately 3.98 acre portion of land known as numbered 15 Corporate Park Drive and recorded in the Plymouth County District Registry of Deeds in Book 62, page 142/143, for such term of years and on such terms and conditions as the Board of Selectmen deems the best interest of the town, and further to authorize the Board of Selectmen and the town administrator to take such action as may be necessary under state law to effectuate the vote taken hereunder.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. Item 25. And the chair recognizes the petitioner of this article, former selectman Bob DiMarzo.
Mr. Moderator, move that the town amend the general bylaws as most recently amended by revising Article 23 miscellaneous, Section 25, right to farm, by adding subsection 3A as printed in the 2018 annual town meeting warrant.
Is there a second?
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Bob DiMarzo.
I'll make this real quick. This will return it to this way the fees were charged a year ago. A person could have 1 chicken, up to 10 chickens, up to 5 rabbits by paying $0, applying for a license, and they're all set. But then the next year, the town sends out an application again, and you have to fill out the application again. And this goes on and on. A business could never survive doing something like this. So the selectmen sent out a letter saying, take a look at your fees. And the Board of Health said, okay, we'll now tax 1 chicken, 50 cents, 2 chickens, $1, 1 rabbit, 50 cents. Little Susie has a rabbit up in her room. The parents have to fill out a form every year, send in a check for 50 cents. It's opened by somebody, it's signed and approved by somebody, sent up to Kathleen and over to Mike Buckley for 50 cents. We cannot run a town this way and we wonder why we're broke. It's not about the money, it's sending a message. I went to the Board of Health, talked to them about going back the old way. You folks are losing money. And they said, we'll think about it, we'll get back to you. So I think it's up to town meeting to send a message that we need to think how to act like a business. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? The chair recognizes the health agent, Lisa Cullity.
Unfortunately, the petitioner is incorrect. Rabbits always had a fee. Rabbits were never free. The condition of, quote-unquote, the free chickens was only put into place for 3 years. What we found happened with that is lots of people would say, oh yeah, I only have 6 chickens, 9 chickens. We go out and do livestock inspections, and suddenly they've multiplied to 24 like magic. Yes, I know animals are born every year, but I've been a livestock keeper for over 20 years. A first-year chicken is very easy to identify from a senior chicken. So we changed back to charging 50 cents a bird to close the quote-unquote loophole. As far as the sending of permits and sending them back to the town and processing them, we are required by Mass General Law to register all livestock without exception. It has nothing to do with livestock, it has to do with disease control. I am required to inspect said livestock every year without exception, regardless of whether we collect a fee or not for them. So the next question should be, how many permits are impacted by this? 12. 12 permits would be impacted by this, as submitted this fiscal year, including the petitioners, which would then be free.
Chair recognizes Bob DiMarzo.
Here it is in print. 0 to 5 rabbits, no fee. This is the old schedule. She's wrong. I don't have a problem with somebody registering their chickens, their rabbits, or whatever. But don't do it every year. It's insanity. We're losing money. We need to run this town like a business.
Chair recognizes Lisa Cullity.
It is required. I confirmed this with MDAR. All livestock must be registered every year. By all means, if we can get the state to say, hey, you don't have to register livestock and you don't have to inspect it, I'd be glad not to do that. It's a lot of work, but it must be. It's about disease control. They got back to me today. I said, is there any exception to this? Are there any number of chickens or things that we can just not look at? They said no. If we do not have people register their chickens, how do we know where they are to inspect them? It's impossible. So this paperwork and application needs to be done every year without exception.
Chair recognizes Beth Dwyer.
I have to register my dog every year. I'm reminded to do that when I get my census every year. Might I suggest that we add whatever we need to do about any kind of animal that needs to be registered include it on the census. It's easy.
Chair recognizes Bob DiMarzo.
I never said in the article, don't register it. All I said is, stop sending out a bill for 50 cents, collecting it, accounting it, having the parent or the person write a check, and do it every year again. It's insanity.
Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none. On the motion by Bob DiMarzo, which has been seconded, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed, please raise your hand. The noes have it, and I declare it lost. Article 11 is the next item of business. Chair recognizes the Vice Chair of the Advisory, Stephen Curley.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town accept the provisions of General Law, Chapter 59, Section 5, Clause 54, exempting personal property from taxation if less than an amount not in excess of $10,000, as established by town meeting, and further by establishing such minimum value of personal property subject to taxation as $10,000 beginning in fiscal year 19.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion by Steve Curley, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. Article 20. DPW. Chair recognizes Ben Bastianelli.
Mr. Moderator, the DPW moves that $100,000 is appropriated for repairs and improvements to the Ludham's Ford Dam. That to meet the appropriation, the Treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, is authorized to borrow $100,000 under Chapter 44 of the General Laws or any other enabling authority. That the Board of Selectmen is authorized to enter into an intermunicipal agreement with the town of Hanover with respect to the construction of the project, and that the Board of Selectmen is authorized to take any other action necessary to carry out this project. Any premium received by the town upon the sale of any bonds or notes approved by this vote, less any such premium applied to the payment of the cost of the issuance of such bonds or notes, may be applied to the payment of the cost approved by this vote in accordance with Chapter 44, Section 20 of the General Laws, thereby reducing the amount of the authorized to be borrowed to pay such costs by a like amount. What this is, Mr. Moderator.
We just need a second. Motion's been seconded. Chair recognizes Ben Bastianelli.
What this is, Mr. Moderator, is to make repairs to the dam in conjunction and joint effort with the town of Hanover. Some repairs were made in the past, and it was done in this format, and Hanover is already moving forward to make further repairs and has approached us to be party to the program.
Chair recognizes Linda Peterson.
Mr. Moderator, do I understand that the town of Hanover, at their town meeting, has approved a like sum for this purpose?
Yes.
Any further discussion? Chair recognizes Deb Wall, Library Director.
Hi, Deborah Wall, Woodbine Ave. I just have a question that you may or may not be able to answer. The Watershed Association, they're targeting dams and they're working with the state to bring them down to improve waterways and bring them back to natural resources. Is there any idea that this at some point will be removed? Because I know there's fish ladders there. I'm just wondering if they want to target that too at some point.
Chair recognizes Ben Bastianelli.
We have not had any discussions or been contacted by them relative to that. I understand what you're talking about, but I believe in this instance, this dam is sort of intended to be there for a little while longer, and this is the reason that they are making further improvements.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those on the motion by Ben Bastianelli, which does require a 2/3 vote because there's borrowing involved, all those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. And I declare it so voted, having reached the necessary 2/3 necessary for passage. Item 5. Chair recognizes Elizabeth Monks of Advisory.
Mr. Moderator, move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $1,725,633 from solid waste revenue to fund the FY19 Solid Waste Enterprise Fund, as shown in Appendix C of this warrant.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion by Betty, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. Article 8. Chair recognizes John Brown.
Move that the town vote to authorize FY19 spending limits on the revolving accounts pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, as printed in Article 8 of the annual town meeting warrant.
Mr. Moderator.
Let's just get a second for that. Motion's been seconded. Chair recognizes Steve Curley.
Mr. Moderator, I believe we discussed that this should come up after Article 7.
Right. Yeah, these two articles are linked, so the chair will entertain a motion to postpone Article 8 until after Article 7, which requires a 4/5 vote to take it out of order. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. Article 16.
Mr. Moderator.
Chair recognizes Chief Mike Hill.
I would like to move to authorize the hiring of 2 additional firefighter paramedics.
Is there a second? Chair, here's second. Chair recognizes Chief Hill.
As everybody recalls, last year I asked for additional people. And we're splitting the cost between the ambulance and the general fund. The general fund portion was not able to be budgeted last year, so I'm requesting it this year through the override. As everyone knows, we got the 2 last year through the ambulance fund. This will be to round out each group. We now have 2 groups of 7, 2 groups of 6. This will make all groups at 7, giving us better coverage, giving you residents much better protection than you're getting now. I'd like to address the propaganda sheet that was handed out earlier. For this community, firefighter paramedics are essential. We do both jobs, and we handle whatever comes in first. Okay, so it's perfect setup for this community. We run 3 ambulances, and they are busy all the time. The more firefighter paramedics you have, the more firefighters you have, the more EMTs you have. Regardless of the classification, it's the people that we need. There's a couple of things in here that really are under my skin. I really want to address the last one. As everybody recalls, last year We got the two folks for 160 grand coming out of the ambulance fund. Not one dime of that is from the general fund. Doesn't come from any taxpayer. The ambulance fund is funded through insurance receipts and all your co-pays if you take a ride with us. For earlier this evening, we transferred $610,000 from the ambulance fund to the general fund to support the operation of the fire department. You pay for firefighters. You don't pay for the paramedic portion. The paramedic portion of their salaries are paid from the ambulance fund. Okay? So this little last taxpayer-funded subsidy is BS. Apology for my candor, but your support is necessary for this community to move forward to getting fully protected. Past couple of years, I've said the number is 8 per shift. We're almost there. Please vote for yourselves, your neighbors, your children in this community. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? The chair would point out that these positions were part of the contingency line item language that was passed when we were doing the budget. Seeing no further discussion, on the motion by Chief Hill, all those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. Article 22. Chair recognizes John Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Move to create a capital project stabilization fund pursuant to the provision of Section 5B of Chapter 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws.
Any discussion on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion by John Brown, please raise your hand. All those opposed? The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. Article 7. Chair recognizes Maria Karas.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town amend the general bylaws as most recently amended by inserting the new Article XA, Departmental Revolving Funds, Section 1 through 5, as printed in the 2018 annual town meeting warrant.
Is there any discussion? The chair would just ask that routinely there's been an article to establish these funds every year. And is the chair correct in assuming that if we do it this way, then those articles, we won't have to be doing this every year? Town council answers in the affirmative. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of the motion by Maria, please raise your hand. All those opposed? The ayes have it, and we'll go to Article 8, which we held till after Article 7, and the chair recognizes John Brown.
Move the town vote authorize fiscal year 19 spending limits on the revolving accounts pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, as printed in Article 8 of the annual town meeting warrant.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. All those opposed? The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. Article 2 we did. Article 18. Chair recognizes Chief Wall.
Mr. Moderator, move to take no action on Article 18.
Motion's been made. Chief, do you want to explain?
I don't really know how to explain. The money's in the contingency budget. If the override passes, then we'll have the money to purchase a cruiser.
This item was addressed as part of the budget, so it's not needed at this point. So Chief moves take no action on Article 18. That is still your call. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor of the motion to take no action, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. Article 14.
Mr. Moderator.
Chair recognizes Matthew Norton, who is chair, correct, of the Recreation
Chairman of Recreation, yes.
Recreation Commission.
I move that the town authorize Recreation Department to hire one part-time senior clerk.
Is there a second? Motion's been seconded. The chair recognizes Matthew Norton.
Okay, the purpose of this article is to create a part-time clerk in the Recreation Department. The clerk's responsibilities will be clerical and admin duties. This will allow the Recreation Director and Assistant Director to focus on revenue-generating opportunities, such as new programs, enhancing existing programs, and other revenue growth strategies. The position is a 19-hour part-time position. There will be no health care, retirement, or other benefits provided. The salary will be funded 100% through Recreation Department fees. The salary will not come out of the town of Pembroke's general fund.
Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of the motion by Matthew, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. The ayes have it. Article 15. Chair recognizes our Library Director, Deborah Wall.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to amend Schedule C of the Classification and Compensation Bylaw by upgrading the position of Generalist Reference Librarian to a new grade of SC 32 with the following steps. Minimum 46,508, second 50,993, maximum 55,575, and further to appropriate the sum of $28,265 to be added to the amounts voted under library wages and salaries under Article 3 of this meeting.
Should that be raise and appropriate, or doesn't it make a difference?
Okay, raise and appropriate?
Correct?
Okay, and further to raise and appropriate the sum of $28,265 to be added to the amounts voted under library wages and salaries under Article 3 of this meeting.
Is there a second? Motion's made and seconded. The chair recognizes Deborah Wall.
The reference librarian position is one we've sought for several years, and I'll just be really brief. I know we've been sitting here for a while. In 2012, the position was passed at town meeting as a full-time position, but not funded. In 2013, we brought it forward again as a part-time position, and happily it was both passed and funded. So for the past several years, the reference librarian has been working very hard to serve and provide better service to the residents of Pembroke. Just in this past year alone, she has helped over 153 people with technology issues ranging from computer issues, e-readers, whatever they may be. They bring in their laptops and she'll help you. She has assisted over 89 people with detailed genealogy research, and she loves doing that. We are actually fulfilling unmet needs in the community, and this position is growing steadily. In my article, I wrote in an explanation that event attendance just in the past few years has risen 220% from her diligence and attention and her ability to offer programs that people really want to come to. So I ask that this position be funded. What this does is make her full-time. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Linda Peterson.
Can I ask, Mr. Moderator, can Mike Buckley speak to the cost of this?
Chair recognizes Mike Buckley, town accountant.
I can say a couple things. I can say every year when we put the budget together, there's difficult decisions to be made. The town administrator and I and the selectmen concurred, at least at the time we put the budget together, that we wanted to keep the override request focus very, very specifically on public safety and roads. So the library request to make this position full-time was not included in the override. That said, I'll also tell you that the motion was to raise and appropriate, and I can tell you with a straight face, there is no more room to raise and appropriate. The only alternative would be to amend the motion to take that out of surplus revenue, free cash. There's about $70,000 left in there. However, I would caution you against using that. We're really approaching 1%, or we're at 1% of budget using one-time money. We really shouldn't go over that, and it may seem like a small amount, but every small amount adds up. One of the things that entered into our decision when we decided not to include this in the override was the fact that 2 years ago, the library budget went up 12%. And that really isn't sustainable. So for the library budget to go up 12% in fiscal 17 and then go up another amount that would be greater than 2.5 in fiscal 19 just isn't sustainable.
Chair recognizes Deb Wall.
I have two things to answer to Mike. One is the 12% increase 2 years ago was to raise all library salaries to a point to be somewhat in the median range and compared to other town departments and other libraries. And it was long overdue. Last year, we had this article put forward at town meeting, and in department meetings, we all agreed to pull certain articles. This was one of the ones that was pulled. And the thinking at the time was that it would come forward this year and be funded. And it was not part of the override, and I will flatly tell you, I agree that to put an override forward for $700,000 and then see $28,000, it looks a little off kilter. So I can't answer where to come up with the money. If we take it out of free cash, that's fine. I understand these are tough times, but I also understand that we serve everyone in the town of Pembroke in the library, and everybody is welcome, and I know that this service is needed.
Any further discussion on this matter? Chair recognizes Linda Peterson.
We discussed this at the advisory, and I don't think anybody is against this morally or personally. However, if you take an additional $28,000 off the $70,000 that we have, if we have an emergency, we will not be able to pay for it. And we'll have to wait until another town meeting to be able to pay for that. As worthy a project as this is, I just don't feel that it's something that the town should incur at this point in time.
Chair recognizes Brian Tolan from Mountain Avenue.
Forestry.
Forestry.
It says here, recommendations by the advisory board, which they just did, but I don't see any recommendations by the selectmen. Do they have something to say on it?
Chair recognizes Dan Trabucco.
The recommendation from the selectmen is town meeting floor, to listen and participate in the discussion at town meeting floor. We did not take a yea or nay on it in our meeting, so we're following the conversation now.
Any further discussion? Well, just use the microphone. State your point of information.
Mr. Moderator, through you, was the motion amended to free cash, or was it left?
It was not amended.
I would be happy to amend it if that's the only way to even try to accomplish this. So if I may, Mr. Moderator, may I amend the article? So the amendment now says, move that the town vote to amend Schedule C of the Classification and Compensation Bylaw by upgrading the position of generalist librarian to a new grade of SC 32 with the following steps: 46,508, 59,993, 55,575, and further to take from available free cash. What's the term? Thank you. Transfer from free cash the sum of $28,265 to be added to the amounts voted under library wages and salaries under Article 3 of this meeting.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? The source of the funding has been changed to free cash. All those in favor of the revised motion by Deb Wall, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. Yikes. It's too close to call. So we will ask the tellers to jump up, and we'll do a standing count. So once again, if you're in the visitors section, you will not be counted. If you are a registered voter, please step out of the visitors section. All those in favor of the revised motion by Deborah Wall, please stand and remain standing until counted. The chair will explain, this is the revised motion, not to revise the motion. It's the revised motion that Deb made to appropriate the money from free cash.
Mary Hill, 21 yes.
Lisa Cullity, 17 yes.
Judith Graham, 13 yes.
Patricia Klaus, 14 yes.
Please be seated. All those voting in opposition, voting no to the motion by Deborah Wall, please stand and remain standing until counted.
Mary Hill, 30 no.
Lisa Cullity, 12 no.
Judith Graham, 17 no.
Patricia Klaus, 16 no.
You can sit down, thank you. On this matter, 65 having voted in the affirmative, 75 in the negative, the motion does not pass. And we go to the next item of business, which is Article 24. The chair recognizes Lisa Cullity from the Community Preservation Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
The chair would just state, excuse me, that we have, however many count from A to J, so we'll take these separately as if they were separate items. So the first item will be recommendation A.
And I just ask for a little patience from Mr. Moderator and town meeting floor. Please understand this is not a task I normally fulfill. Sadly, the loss of our former chair, Brian Van Riper, who normally handled all this work. I'm very sorry to see him not able to do it today, but I'm going to do the best I can. But this is definitely outside of my wheelhouse. So, At your pleasure, Mr. Moderator, do you want to start with
Yeah,
item A? Very good.
Recommendation A. Yeah.
So move to appropriate the sum of $27,444 from fiscal budget 19 undesignated fund reserves, that said funds be granted to the trustees of the Bryantville Meeting House for the purposes of waterproofing or take any other at 32 School Street, or take any action thereto.
Strike the take any action there too. Is there a second? Motion's made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of the motion by Lisa on recommendation A, please raise your hand. All those opposed? The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. Recommendation B, the chair recognizes Lisa Cullity.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. B would be to move and appropriate the sum of $85,000 from fiscal year 19 undesignated fund reserves, and that said funds be used by Pembroke Public Schools for open space and recreational purposes for Phase 1 of an irrigation project at Pembroke High School and North Pembroke Elementary School.
Second, is there a second? Any discussion on this matter? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. Recommendation C, the chair recognizes Lisa Cullity.
Move to appropriate the sum of $35,000 from fiscal year 19 community housing reserves and $20,000 from fiscal year 19 annual budgeted reserves, and that said funds be used by Pembroke Housing Authority for the support of affordable housing purposes for fire alarm system project at Kill Commons Community Housing Development.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. The ayes have it. I declare it so voted. Recommendation D, the chair recognizes Lisa Cullity.
Move to appropriate the sum of $25,000 from fiscal year 19 annual budgeted reserve, and that said funds be used for Pembroke Department of Public Works for historic preservation and restoration purposes for the repair of headstones at the Center Street Cemetery.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. Recommendation E, the chair recognizes Lisa Cullity.
Move to appropriate the sum of $20,000 from fiscal year 19 annual budgeted reserve, and that said funds be used by the Pembroke Department of Public Works for open space and recreational purposes for the installation of fences, gates, and cooking grills at Ludham's Ford Park on Elm Street.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. Recommendation F.
Move to take no action on recommendation F.
Any discussion on that motion? Chair recognizes Beth Dwyer.
Just as an explanation, we have withdrawn this application, and we will be back in the fall.
Thank you for that explanation. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion to take no action, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. Recommendation G, the chair recognizes Lisa Cullity.
Move to appropriate the sum of $25,000 from fiscal year 19 annual budgeted reserve, and that said funds be used by the town administrator for recreational purposes for parking lot improvements, fencing, and signage at Tubbs Meadow.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. Article 24, recommendation H, chair recognizes Lisa Cullity.
Move to appropriate the sum of $60,000 from fiscal year 19 annual budgeted reserve and $40,000 from fiscal year 19 historic resource reserves, and that said funds be used by the Pembroke Historical Commission for the historical preservation and rehabilitation purposes for Phase 2 of the stabilization of the Turner Homestead on Washington Street.
Chair, motion's been seconded. Any discussion? Chair recognizes.
Hi, Jean Gelati, Mountain Avenue. The Turner Homestead, is that the one behind the fire station? What are they doing with it?
Chair recognizes Lisa Cullity.
I'm more than happy to yield the floor if someone from Historical Commission would like to speak to it. If not, I will explain what was explained to the CPC as best I can. I'll yield the floor.
Well, okay.
I'm sorry, Steve Herman, Elm Street. I'm the Historic Commission liaison to the Community Preservation. I hope people are aware, but just in case they're not, the Turner Homestead is circa 1800. It was the homestead of John Turner, the son of the famous John Turner, who's the chairman of the committee that wrote the Pembroke Resolves, 1772, protest to British rule in the colonies. We're not sure exactly what to do with the homestead, but in view of the fact that there have been many historic homes destroyed in Pembroke over the last 2 years, and quite a few over the past decade, preservation of this home that's sort of a cornerstone of Pembroke's colonial history, I think needs to be done. Despite the fact that we don't have a specific purpose, I have a number of ideas. A lot of people have ideas in mind. There's a possibility of having the home used as some kind of a town building to house one of the departments. It could also be used as a museum. It's not going to interfere with the fire station project if that goes forward, and it has beautiful access and views of some of the preserve property owned by Plymouth County Wildland Trust, so it could be used as a venue for activities. It could be rented out for activities that could recoup some of the funds the town's putting into it. So although there's no specific purpose, I think we can find one if the home is preserved. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Chair recognizes Libby Bates from the Historical Commission.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'm Libby Bates, 116 Washington Street, Chair of the Historical Commission. And in agreement with what Steve Herman just said, I'd like to add a couple of things. As he said, we have lost a number of 17th and 18th century houses in Pembroke over the last 2 years. Our responsibility to you, the townspeople, is to help preserve and protect the historic archives and history of the town. This is a project that has been on our radar screen for over 10 years. We attempted to deal with the prior owner going back a number of years. That was unsuccessful. Then the town acquired the property and gave new life to this project. Now, as Steve said, as of this moment in time, we do not have a specific future use. We have a number of potential specific uses. My goal has always been to, if we're going to spend this kind of money and turn it on to the taxpayers, my goal has always been that it has to be productive and contribute to the community. This is an awesome house. It really is. And as Steve pointed out, it was owned by the Turner family, who were instrumental in writing the Pembroke Resolves, 1772, which was the first written document in the colonies to call for the separation between Great Britain and the American colonies. John Turner headed that committee. This was his estate. Now, it has fallen into disrepair. We have done some remedial repairs to it already. The monies that we're requesting now are to replace the roof, to stabilize the outside and redo the facade of the house. The building is structurally sound, and the future use could be maybe in partnership with the fire department, maybe with the Wildlands Trust. It has access to some beautiful wildland property behind it. But it kind of breaks my heart to see these buildings and these sites just go away, because you can't get them back. It took us 25 years to restore the Bethel Chapel, and that's a little teeny tiny building. But we got it done. It's being used. It's paying for itself. It's being rented by townspeople, by the Quakers. The Historical Commission meets there and stores their records there. So it would be the goal of the Historical Commission to make this property an asset to the town, something we can be proud of. The town of Marshfield, a number of years ago, acquired and started the preservation of the Daniel Webster estate. You go there now, you're going to pay $2,500 a pop to rent it as a venue. And I personally think if we go back to the original footprint of the Turner House, we could recreate that same type of thing. And so it's not a burden on the taxpayers, it contributes to the town, it preserves our history. It's money well spent. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Chair recognizes Steve Herman.
Yeah, just one last thing. I've had some talks with the archaeology department at the University of Massachusetts, Boston, and they are interested in, we're close enough to them for them to be interested in digging some test pits and excavating, looking for, there's been mills on the property since the 1640s, and obviously there's a mill, there's a more modern mill there now, but the Department of Archaeology is interested in looking at the site for recouping some of that lost history of the mills on that property too.
Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of the motion by Lisa Cullity on recommendation H, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. Recommendation I, the chair recognizes Lisa Cullity.
Move to appropriate the sum of $35,000 from fiscal year 19 annual budgeted reserve, and that said funds be used by the town administrator for recreational and open space purposes, for grounds evaluation and site preparation at the Memorial Green on Curve Street.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. Recommendation J, the chair recognizes Lisa Cullity.
Move to appropriate the sum of $7,710 from fiscal budget 18 annual budgeted reserves, and that said funds be used by the town administrator for recreational and open space purposes, for the purchase of handicap mats at beaches on Town Landing, Oldham Pond, and Little Sandy Bottom Pond.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted.
Thank you for your patience, Mr. Moderator, and thank you, town meeting floor, for working with me.
Article 12 is the next item of business. And the chair recognizes Linda Peterson.
Mr. Moderator, move that the town amend the general bylaws as most recently amended by revising Article 10, Advisory Committee, Section 1, paragraphs 1 and 7, as printed in the 2018 annual meeting warrant.
Chair recognizes Linda Peterson.
I'm sure it comes as no surprise to the town folk that we do not have a lot of support from town people for the boards and committees in town. We've had on occasion to cancel meetings. So the basis of this amendment is to change our quorum to those that are currently serving as opposed to the number that is written in the bylaw. It's just as simple as that, so that we can continue to do the business that we have been appointed to do.
Chair, is there any further discussion? Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
If you
Sharon
could-
Aramian,
Sharon Aramian.
Juniper Lane. I have to admit that this is one of the reasons why I was able to get here tonight. What this is saying historically is that for years we've had trouble getting a quorum to town meeting. Now we're having trouble getting advisory people to sit on the board. We really don't get much information about what needs are. I've been in touch recently with some of the selectmen about when is town meeting, when are our elections. I mean, we have to promote this, and there isn't much promotion. It's not a proactive situation. If we needed people on the board, let's get that information out there. Now you want to reduce our advisory personnel down from, let's see, currently it's less than half, less than 1% of the population. Now it's going to be less representing us on their information. We're not being represented as well as we could be. We don't have the numbers coming to meeting. Why don't we have the numbers? We don't know about the meeting. If you live in East or North Pembroke, you don't get information on the roadside that you have the meeting tonight that you forgot about on the way home from work. You say, oh, I can go. It's just not promoted. The town meeting isn't promoted. The ballot for the election this Saturday just went up on the website this morning. It wasn't on the website for the last few weeks. And the reason it went up this morning is that I called and I said, where's the ballot? We need to have our selectmen push it. We need to have those people that need people on the board to push it. And I think this is just taking away our representation now. I know it's not easy. I volunteer in a lot of things in a lot of different places, and I know it's not easy. We need all 9 of you there. So the selectmen need to push it. The town administrator, and if we have a town manager, you have to push it. You have to let us know. Don't keep all the information that you know about in-house. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Steve Curley from Advisory.
Mr. Moderator, through you to the prior speaker, the purpose of this article is not to reduce the number of people on advisory. What it does is it establishes a minimum of 4, at which point we'd really have to do something serious. But what happens at times is that you have a couple of openings and you have 7 people or 6 people. Right now, the bylaw reads that we have to have 5 as a quorum, even if we only have 6 members. And that is what was referenced before as to the difficulty and occasionally have to cancel meetings to elect a quorum simply because you need almost 100% attendance. That is the purpose of this, and that is the only purpose, is to establish that when we do have less than 9, that we can still have effective meetings. We do, whenever, pretty well any time that we've gone before the Board of Selectmen on PACTV, et cetera, we have made we have mentioned how many openings we have and so forth. So we do need people, we still need people, and there's a number of boards that do that. I know the Board of Selectmen on occasion put it out. Unfortunately, the local newspapers' distribution is quite low, and so most people, they really don't get the news. But we and a lot of other boards are all running short-staffed.
Chair recognizes Nick, I'm forgetting your last name.
Nick Adams.
Nick Adams.
Puttingbrook Drive. I'd like to ask kind of a general question. Is this, as you said, there's issues getting this information out. It's really hard because of low circulation in newspapers. Is there an effort to get this on some newer forms of media? Like, is it all getting out on social media and things that people are using? I haven't been able to determine that very specifically, and what platforms.
Chair recognizes Dan. Well, no, I can't allow, you have to step to the microphone. Chair recognizes Dan Tribuco from the Select.
Mr. Chairman, to the town meeting, some concerns have been expressed about how we at Town Hall get the word out. Well, meetings are televised every week. Those meetings, if they're not broadcast live, they are taped, and they are all available streamed online on the internet. Pembroke has a town Facebook page. So we have television, Facebook, web streaming, we have newspaper reports, we have radio programs. Did I miss it? The Telegraph? I mean, they are out there. And for this town meeting, we did try to get, we reached out to the county to see if we can have a reverse 911 call to make it more convenient for the people that don't have the internet, don't have a radio, or don't have a television. So we try to get it out there, and the county would not allow it because it was not a public safety issue. So we couldn't get a reverse 911 call. But we did try, and we try as many media outlets as we can to get the word out. But the problem is with low turnout is just people are busy in other things. And we do encourage people to come and to join the committees. The advisory committee is always looking for people.
Chair recognizes Nick Adams.
I'd just like to clarify, I wasn't meaning to sling accusation on anyone or anything. I was just asking for a point of clarification because I was genuinely unaware over whether this was something that was getting out on social media.
Chair recognizes Deb Wall, who's not only our library director, but webmaster.
And social media person. It is on social media frequently. It is on Twitter, when I remember to put it on Twitter, although we have very little activity on Twitter, so I don't really see that that's a huge outreach. But I want to remind people that when things are posted on the website and they are posted on the main page, and there are several of us that post information on the main page, you can sign up to get email notifications when a new post is posted. You can get email notifications when the selectmen post a new agenda. You can choose what you want to get, and go right to the website, give me a call, give Ms. Sabrina Chilcott a call. We can help you find it. You can sign up for the emails and come right to your phone or your computer or wherever you get your email.
Chair recognizes former Selectman Ed Quill.
Ed Quill, Fairwood Drive. Can I just make a correction on the news coverage, on the newspaper? Our weekly newspaper is nothing more than an advertising rag. They don't cover selectmen's meetings the way they used to. We don't know what the selectmen are doing. We don't know what any of these boards are doing. We don't know anything that's going on if you read this local weekly. We don't know what's going on in town by the local newspaper in this town. Give us a break.
Any further discussion on this matter? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion made by Linda Peterson of Advisory on Article 12, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. Article 13. Chair recognizes Jim McCollum from Advisory.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Move that the town appropriate from taxation the sum of $5,000 to contract with the South Shore Community Action Council to provide services to residents of the town.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. Article 21. Chair recognizes Timothy Brennan of the Town Government Study Committee.
Move to petition the General Court to enact a special act for the town of Pembroke entitled An Act Establishing a Town Manager Form of Government for the Town of Pembroke, as printed in Article 21 of the Annual Town Meeting Warrant with the following changes. Section 1A, add the following new sentence after the last sentence. If any provision of this act conflicts with any provisions of any state or federal law or regulation, the federal law or regulation shall govern. Section 2C5. In the first sentence, delete the redundant words, a selectman shall be the licensing board of the town. Section 3A2, add the following new sentence after the first sentence. The educational qualifications shall consist of at least a bachelor's degree in public administration or related field, with a master's degree in public administration or business being highly desirable. Section 4A1, add the following at the end of the first sentence, provided, however, that the library director shall continue to be appointed by the library trustees. Section 7, add a new subsection D as follows. D, notwithstanding the above, the board shall continue to function as the Board of Water Commissioners and in that capacity shall set water rates and maintain the Water Enterprise Fund and shall continue to exercise all of the authority and shall continue to have all of the responsibilities it had under Chapter 284 of the Acts of 1991.
Motion's made and seconded. The chair recognizes Timothy Brennan.
It's late, but if you'll indulge me a bit longer, I have some prepared remarks because I do think this is one of the more important reforms that Pembroke has had before it in the past decade. In recent years, Pembroke's town government has undergone several positive changes that streamline processes and ultimately provide a much better experience for both the town employees and residents who rely on town services. The progress we've made is certain, but there's much work to be done. In 1998, the town budget was $23 million and our population was 16,000 people. This year, in 2018, we have a budget of $63 million and the population is 25% greater. Despite recent progress, we still have a decentralized form of government that is not conducive to an effective and efficient modern-day operation. Due to the increasingly complex needs of our community, Pembroke has outgrown its operating structure. Within the town, there are separately elected boards that have no reporting relationship to the selectman or the town administrator. This leads to limited coordination and accountability. Many employees report to part-time boards or officials that may meet only monthly, weekly, rather than be accountable to a professional position in town hall. And importantly, in the future, the town may have difficulty finding a qualified full-time professional to replace our town administrator, given the lack of authority and central management responsibilities assigned to this position. This act, in no way, proposes eliminating any elected or appointed boards. In the coming years, this town will face many important and expensive decisions. Tonight, we're being asked to approve an operational override for the second time in 3 years. We need new roads, a new fire station, a new police station, a new DPW facility, a new community center, and a revitalized downtown. These are all worthwhile investments that would cost millions of dollars. We have an unfunded pension liability of approximately $30 million. We have an unfunded healthcare liability that surpasses $50 million. The challenges we face are not insurmountable. With the Town Manager Act, we have the rare opportunity for a zero-cost, high-impact investment in our community's future. Having sat on the advisory committee for several years, I can tell you with absolute certainty that the lack of a streamlined reporting structure often leads to confusion and unaccountability. A siloed approach to town government will not work. Tonight, with the simple and logical changes to the structure of our town government, we can take a big step towards giving residents the confidence and willingness to make large, needed investments in the town's future. The act we are proposing is not perfect. Things could go wrong, and some things most certainly will go wrong. But just because things could go wrong does not mean we should abandon a desire for progress. We'll learn from it and we'll adapt. If we're thoughtful about how we move forward, if we're optimistic about the possibilities and willing to act as a team, I think we can be successful. Thank you for the time.
Chair recognizes Libby Bates.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and thank you, Tim, and your committee. This is a pretty amazing document. I do have some issues, and some of you may be familiar with them. I have served on 3 government study committees. I was on the government study committee when the town transitioned from an executive secretary to a town administrator. At that time, we investigated going all the way to a town manager. At that point in time, and this is a number of years ago, We felt the town wasn't ready. Now, that being said, I personally am not against the concept of a town manager. But each time this article has come in one way, shape, or form to town meeting, I have recommended to the town meeting that before we take this rather dramatic step, that we create a town charter. And that position would be part of a town charter, off of which all of the other departments of government would be attached. All we have now is a bundle of bylaws. I was also on the Town Government Study Committee that recodified the town bylaws, put them in order so that they made some sense, because prior to that, they were basically added to the bylaws whenever they got voted in by town meeting. So I've been looking at the structure, the organizational structure. I've seen it before. I've worked in 5 municipal communities. I'm not unfamiliar with this position or the position of town administrator or executive secretary. I've worked with all of them. And there are some really good things in this proposal. But there are some things that truly concern me. 100 years ago, now I'm on the Board of Assessors, so I want to speak to you from that perspective. 100 years ago, when someone ran in most of the municipalities in Massachusetts, ran for the Board of Selectmen, they also ran for the Board of Assessors. And the legislature, about 100 years ago, decided, wait a minute, this is like, this is the potential, not that it happened, but gives the potential for, the fox guarding the hen house. It gives an avenue towards potential. I'm not suggesting it's happened, but gives the potential for corruption. The assessors are governed more strictly than any other department in municipal government by the Department of Revenue. We have benchmarks, we have constant interaction with the Department of Revenue, we are governed by statute, and we must adhere to those rules. This bylaw takes away some of that separation of powers. Our forefathers, in their wisdom, when they created and wrote the Constitution of the United States, set a plan for separation of powers, executive, legislative, and judicial. And not perfect, but it seems to have worked. The point, there's a spreadsheet, which is not in here, but was online, of the proposal of this bylaw would to take 11 departments, 6 of them already appointed by the Board of Selectmen and answer to the town administrator, and several others, particularly the case I'm talking about, the Board of Assessors, where the department head answers to the elected Board of Assessors and we answer to the Department of Revenue. The new model shows those same 11 departments appointed by town manager, all the way to the bottom, answering to town manager, all the way to the bottom. Now, it has been suggested that a professional town manager would be more qualified to appoint, for example, our department head, our chief assessor, to which I thoroughly disagree. First of all, town managers don't typically, or administrators or executive secretary, don't get into the weeds on the statutes governing how we assess property fair and equitable. They don't do it. They leave it to the elected board and to the appointed chief assessor. Now, by statute, and you can look it up, the assistant assessor, which is basically all chief and principal assessors, is appointed by the Board of Assessors, whether elected or appointed. Now, that can change if you have a charter, and you can do that. And you can change this bylaw. But what you're doing is you're putting all your eggs in one basket. And I think there should be some exemptions. Now, I just heard, to my surprise, that you'd have exempted the library trustees. Well, why is that? It was in the original list to be appointed by the town manager, but now it's back to the library trustees, and for whatever reason, I don't have a problem with that. I do have a problem with the town administrator appointing the chief assessor because of the statutory regulations we are required to live and die by. And by my own personal experience, I've seen where that can run into trouble with administrations. You can have pressure to change someone's assessment, and if you have an appointed Board of Assessors, or even not, coming from the selectman's office or a town administrator's office, and I'm not talking about present company, I'm looking down the road. This is one department. If you can exempt the schools and the fire department, and now the library, you should and need to exempt the appointing authority of the town administrator. If in fact you decide you want this, you should exempt the position of chief assessor. And I would like to offer an amendment, if I may, to, I believe, Section 4, Section A, Powers of Attorney, after the word non-elected department heads, the words accepting the position of chief assessor.
Is there a second to that
Second.
motion? Chair recognizes the gentleman to my left here, if you could state your name.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. My name is Jim Agnew from Herringbrook Lane. Pembroke now is a $65 million enterprise. I mean, that's incredible. And that kind of complexity needs professional leadership. What's been presented tonight in this organizational diagram is really the creation or the formation of a chief operating officer. This is an opportunity for a chief operating officer within our community to manage productivity, innovation, and accountability. Above that, there are plenty of checks and balances. Checks and balances that go back to the elected officials, our selectmen, and checks and balances that go back to the population, the electorate in general. I think it's a terrific model. I think we are behind the times if we do not move in this direction. What we're talking about is professional leadership, leadership that can drive accountability. I'm in full support of what's been presented this evening, and I just want to thank the chair for giving me a couple of minutes just to mention that in total. Thanks.
The chair is going to try to recognize people, speakers in the order in which they stood, so the chair recognizes.
Marjorie Baumler, Edward Drive. I have no wonderful facts like the two gentlemen who have preceded me. I'm just going to give you an overview of an observation. We are now in the 21st century. This town has really grown, and it's amazing at the amount of children we see around here, and it's wonderful. I would agree with the fact that there are people who are certainly qualified, and as the gentleman before me said, this is a job that is now like a CEO, and there are certainly people who are trained to handle situations that this town presents. And I certainly hope that other people who have just a vision as narrow as mine, in a sense, will certainly think very carefully and think about the value of a town manager. Thank you.
Not previously haven't spoken. The chair recognizes Patrick Chilcott from the school committee.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I just real quick want to say how many of us walk into work every day and don't report to somebody? How many companies do really well when they don't have somebody leading them and providing a vision for them, providing direction on a day-to-day basis? Zero. We're in a situation right now where we're going to make a decision that's going to affect the lives of us, our children, and potentially our children's children. We have no one steering the ship on a day-to-day basis because of the form of government that we currently have. I completely and utterly respect the fact that Libby doesn't approve and doesn't agree. This has nothing to do with a charter. Nothing. A charter can come. And by the way, the town manager, who's empowered to lead, is empowered to direct, and is empowered to make sure on a day-to-day basis we're receiving the services we need to receive, can actually lead the effort. I really, really, really hope that you vote for this article. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Nick Adams.
Precisely, from Pembroke Drive. Now, I don't totally disagree with the town manager form of government. I'm just not 100% sure. I honestly think if there's any way we can get this out to more people, I feel like this isn't, there's a good number of people here, but it's not fully representative of, as we've said before, massive town, to completely change the form of our town's government and remove it a bit from the voting public. And I totally agree that there is a lot of inefficiency with the way the town government is run, and it could be improved, but I don't think that moving it away from the voting public is the way to do that improvement.
Chair recognizes, not previously having spoken, Ben Bastianelli.
Mr. Moderator, at the present time, it's my belief that this town manager article has no benefit to the community. 4 years ago, we went through this. We voted against it. We've been acting as a town management organization for the last 4 years. We're not doing very well at it. And it doesn't appear to me that any single individual is going to come to Pembroke and they're going to straighten out our problems. On top of that, the abolishment of the DPW in the article makes no sense. It has nothing to do with a town manager. The DPW in this town for the last 25 years has been in position because the people 25 years ago realized that the Board of Selectmen and those people in charge, again, as Libby stated, didn't wade into the minutia of what happens in that department, what needs to happen, what regulations need to be applied for, the things that we need to do both on the water side as well as the road side. It's your DPW that got Route 14 into construction. It's your DPW that's going to get Route 36 into construction. If you abolish your DPW, who's going to do that? A town manager is not going to come in and take over the role and responsibility of the DPW. They're not going to go out and do the engineering. They're not going to do anything with respect to that. I move, Mr. Moderator, to amend the article, Article 21, Section 7, to be completely deleted in its entirety, and Article 8B to be deleted in its entirety.
I'm going to need that in writing. Motion's been made and seconded. Now we have two motions that just, we have to vote on the motion, the main motion, and then the motion by Libby Bates and the motion by Ben Bastianelli. So the chair can accept any more motions for the time being. But not previously having spoken, the chair recognizes
Jill Taylor, 7 Ruth Road.
Jill.
I actually just wanted to make a slight amendment myself, so I can wait until we address this if you'd
or we
like.
can dispose of one and then allow another one. Again, not having previously spoken, the gentleman behind you, whose name again I'm forgetting, I apologize.
Shada Gatera, Queensbrook. Where does it say they're abolishing the DPW committee? There will be no more DPW? Is that factual? Somebody, anybody?
Chair recognizes Tim Brennan from the Town Government Study Committee.
That's just factually incorrect. So you can ask Ben where he saw it, but.
That was my
that's-
understanding as well. I just wanted to clarify.
That's most people to understand.
Well, let's allow someone who hasn't spoken. Lisa Cullity, not having previously spoken.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. For those that were at town meeting last spring, we had very similar conversations when we formed the Department of Municipal Inspections. Certain boards and certain members stood up and said their power was going to be stripped from them. It would be Armageddon. There would be nepotism and craziness going on. Now I'm in the Department of Municipal Inspections. Let me tell you what the public says to myself, the secretary to the board, the building department, the zoning officer, and the conservation daily. Wow, this is full service. Wow, what an amazing department. Wow, what a helpful town hall. Wow, you people are the best. And the way that has come to be is by forming DMI, putting these departments together, people are able to come in, get the service they deserve, and the staff that's in those departments understand we're there to work together. There are no closed doors because we work as a team. My department is better for it. I believe the building department, zoning, and conservation are better for it. When you have a united team, when you have an understanding of who the leadership is, the staff are comfortable going for their leadership for their direction, and the leadership comes to the staff for the information they need from their expert staff. I strongly support this article. It's already working well in a small portion, and I only see an opportunity for more improvement.
Chair recognizes Steve Curley from Advisory.
Mr. Moderator, just a couple of quick points here. Number one of the changes that Mr. Bastianelli seems to be against is to have the DPW director report to the town manager. This was actually recommended by the Department of Revenue about 4 or 5 years ago, as the current method of operation was inefficient, and they suggested we do it immediately to the town administrator. We waited, and we're doing it as part of this. But one of the purposes of some of this is you've got part-time people that are volunteering or elected in some of these committees that meet once a week, and they're being asked to actually supervise a department. Now, if you come in on one evening a week, you can't supervise it. I know, again, on the assessors, right now we have 3 assessors, I believe, that have assessor experience. But at some point, it's an elected position. Somebody could win that's, shall we say, clueless, and they could end up hiring a clueless person to run the department. This establishes a professional that's going to have criteria for hiring somebody to run that department. And it won't be something that will be political, which an elected board, a small elected board, 3 people, that doesn't get a lot of publicity.
Because we do a good job.
Because you do a good job, okay. But doesn't get a lot of publicity. You could have some people in there that can, with some changeover, will be more susceptible to succumbing to political pressure than a town manager.
Chair recognizes Dan Tribuco, Board of Selectmen.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Being a selectman for the last few years, I could see how government can change for the better, how it needs to change and change for the better. I listen to people all the time who ask me, how can we make Pembroke, how can we make municipal government work more like a business, run like a business, function like a business? Well, municipalities can't exactly function like a business, but they can approximate it with a town manager. A town manager as the CEO, as the person that all the day-to-day staff, directors, report to. The directors will still have their elected boards. The planning board will still have their roles. The Board of Health, the Board of Assessors, the DPWs are the water commissioners. They all will have the same duties because they all have statutory requirements. Planning Board, Chapter 40B, DPW, Chapter 90, and et cetera. Everyone has the statutory requirements that no town manager can take away from the elected boards. The elected boards are not going anywhere. And this committee that researched this for several years now knows that. They understand that. So these boards are not going anywhere. It's just the director who works every day is not going to report to a board that meets once a month, once every 2 weeks. How is that even, how can the town function when someone who works 40 hours a week during the day is reporting to people who are volunteers who show up every other week at night? That's how we've been running, and we want to fix that. And town manager is the best way to do that. And I know that the chairman of our committee has some more to say to rebut some of the questions that have been going around. So I encourage you to listen to some of the things that he has to say.
Chair recognizes Becky Coletta, Chairman of the Planning Board.
So I'm Becky Coletta, Chairman of the Planning Board. The Planning Board took a vote at our last meeting to ask me to stand up at this meeting and express our opposition to this town manager article in the way that it's currently written. It's not that we have a problem with the concept of a town manager, but there is a concern about the discussion in here about how the assistant to the planning board would be elected and selected and managed, or fired and managed. We do have statutory responsibilities, primarily actually under 40A rather than 40B, because 40B sidesteps us and goes to the ZBA. Under 40A, we have a lot of regulatory requirements, having the planning board assistant responsive directly to the planning board with help and support, presumably from the town administrator's office. We need that. We're not saying we want to be completely separate from the Board of Selectmen or the town administrator or the town manager, but it's just the way that it's been developed here in the Town Manager Act that we feel like as an elected board with separate statutory requirements, this would not better serve the needs of the town. And if I may just also speak personally, this wasn't authorized by the planning board. My concern is also that in order to remove the town manager, you need 4 of the 5 elected Board of Selectmen to remove the town manager. In my mind, we're still a democracy, and in a democracy to have the need to have 4 of your 5 Board of Selectmen remove a town manager means that the most powerful person in our government will not be the person that you elect. It will not be the people that you elect. It will be an unelected person. And while we know who is the town administrator now, we don't know who that person will be down the road. And I think a charter commission would be a better way to go about a major change to town government. It would allow us to go through a process that would elicit a lot of input and to really put it together in a way that then would be fully voted on by the town as an overall structure that interrelates. Thank you.
Once again, the chair is going to try to recognize those who have not previously spoken and give them an opportunity. So the gentleman in the back here, whose name, again, escapes the chair.
It's Tim Landy, Oakland Square Drive. I'm a little uncomfortable with this because I was going to say move the question.
Is that a motion? Yes. The motion is in order, but it's up to you, the meeting, to decide. It's been seconded? Does it have to be? Yeah. So on the motion, which is non-debatable, to move the question, now, the chair, anticipating this might happen, just check with town council. This will not make the whole article go away. We have 2 amendments before us. So the motion to move the question is really on, even though the chair has allowed some wide latitude and debate here, really before us is Ben Bastianelli's amendment. So the motion to move the question is really just on that amendment. If the motion prevails, we'll go right to a vote on the amendment, but then we can still have debate on the general question. So, which chair's not sure whether that was the intent or not, but that's how it should be applied. So on the motion to move the question, again, this is on the second amendment that was offered by Ben Bastianelli. All those in favor of moving the question, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. The ayes have it. So we'll go right to the amendment. Again, the Ben Bastianelli amendment was to amend Article 21, Section 7, to be deleted in its entirety, and Section 8B to be deleted in its entirety, Section 7 and Section 8B. All those in favor of the amendment, please raise your hand. All those opposed, I declare it lost. Chair recognizes Jean. Okay, Steve Walsh from Advisory.
I think we just have to move the town forward, okay? You'll have 5 elected Board of Selectmen. That'll be managing this person. Anything goes wrong, you have an election of 1 or 2 selectmen every year. You don't like the way the person operates, if the Board of Selectmen don't want to remove the person, you can remove the Board of Selectmen. It's time to move the town forward. Everybody's operating in silos. As you can see tonight, everyone's up, protect me, protect me, protect me. We're $63 million budget. We're getting through this year. Next year's budget doesn't look much better. According to the UMass professor, we're already 1.3 million in the hole. We need someone who's going to come in here, show some fiscal responsibility, manage this town, oversee the employees on a day-to-day basis. So when issues happen, they're addressed. And when they're not addressed, there's 5 people at the front of the room you can talk to.
Now, Chair, okay, the Chair promised, is it Jill?
Yes.
The opportunity to offer an additional amendment once we've disposed of one. So the Chair recognizes Jill. I'm forgetting your last name.
Taylor.
Jill Taylor.
Ruth Road. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Just to make it clear through all sections, with the exemption for the Library Trustee Board, I'd like to make a motion to amend Section 4B, number 7, manage and be responsible for all town buildings, properties, and facilities, except those under the control of the School Committee and Conservation Commission, and reword it to read, manage and be responsible for all town buildings, properties, and facilities, except those under the control of the School Committee, Conservation Commission, and Board of Library Trustees. Also, in the same section, number 4, administer either directly or through a person appointed by him. I'd like it to read, administer either directly or through a person appointed by him or her, if you would.
The Chair does need that in writing.
I can do that.
Okay, so if you can do that.
Absolutely.
The Chair recognizes Jean Gigliotti.
I just have a couple of questions, comments, concerns regarding this. I have a couple of questions, comments, concerns regarding this. One of them is, I understand that there's a concern that the elected boards don't have the capability of hiring and firing whoever they want. I strongly disagree with that, but in any case, if that's the case, why are the library trustees still in charge of hiring the library director, but the planning board is not in charge of hiring or firing the planning assistant? The Board of Assessors is not in charge of the chief assessor, and the DPW is not in charge of firing or hiring the DPW director. And the other question I have is, on, let's see, Section 4B, it says that the town manager can reorganize, consolidate, or establish any department or position under the town manager's direction or supervision at his or her discretion. Transfer all or part of any unexpended appropriation of a reorganized or consolidated department, board, or office to any other town department, board, or office. Now, question. Does that mean if the town manager, let's say, doesn't want to have a particular department around anymore, they can ditch that department and then take the money and put it someplace else under their own discretion, no questions asked? That's a lot of power.
All right, the Chair would state you've asked a couple of specific questions, and so perhaps to try to answer those as succinctly as possible, the Chair would recognize Tim Brennan from the Town Government Study Committee.
Sure. So as far as the library trustees, unfortunately, there was, we needed legal clarification last minute as to whether or not they even could statutorily be included, and we didn't have that clarification in time to include them in the act, so they were excluded for no other reason than that. And then as far as whether or not a town manager would have the ability to consolidate or move departments around along with that budget, the thought would be, yes, I mean, that's something similar to what was happening last year with the Department of Municipal Inspections, where we saw that there was an opportunity to streamline and make more efficient how the organizational structure was within Town Hall, and we would like that ability to be with the professional town manager.
Chair recognizes, actually, completely blank, former member of Advisory Committee, Ann Stanton.
Go ahead. Hi, Ann Stanton, Washington Street, 19 Washington Street. I think we could go around and around and around, and we're not going to fix this tonight, but I think I would like to move the question and say we either move forward or we don't.
All right, the chair would state that we're in the same position we were in the last time with two
am I moving the amendments?
You're moving the amendments, yeah. So.
Can I move both of them?
No.
All right, one, please, one.
Okay, so
Yes.
before us now is a motion to move what's before us, and that's the last amendment that was put on the floor by Jill Taylor, which would, again, if you have it in front of you, amend
Mr. Moderator, point of information, what
state your
about,
point of information.
what about my motion?
Well,
It was the first one.
but we'll take them in reverse order. That's the way it's done, so we'll get to yours. So the motion made by Jill was to amend Section 4B to add the word him or her, and in Section 7, that it would be rephrased, manage and be responsible for all town buildings, properties, and facilities except those under the control of the School Committee, Conservation Commission, and Board of Library Trustees, and strike the rest. Is that correct? Okay, so this vote now is only to move the question, not on the amendment, but we'll go right to that amendment. So all those in favor of moving the question, please raise your hand. All those opposed? The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. So we go right to the motion from Jill. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. The noes have it, and I declare it lost. So the chair recognizes Libby Bates. You know what? The chair's in error. I apologize. Matthew, did you just want to? Matthew Furlong from the Board of Selectmen has been standing for a while, not previously, haven't spoken.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Through you to the town. What this article represents is Pembroke moving forward. There's been a lot said, there'll be a lot more said about this article. But, sorry, can you hear me now? So what this article represents is Pembroke moving forward. There's been a lot said, and there's going to be a lot more said. But what it comes down to is the approval of this article will move Pembroke into the 21st century. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Libby Bates.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'd like to respond, just for clarification purposes, to Mr. Curley and Mr. Trabucco's comments about the fact that elected boards, you have the right to elect whoever you want to each and every board in town that is elected. Just a point of information, I have been on the Board of Assessors in Pembroke for 28 years, and in all of that time, there has always been 2 or more full-time chief assessors, principal assessors, serving as your assessors. Very professional, know the law inside and out, and know how the department should be run in conjunction with oversight from the Department of Revenue. Now, hypothetically, yes, I know it could change. Joe the plumber could get elected, you know, but it hasn't happened in almost 3 decades, and it isn't likely to happen soon. One of the reasons is if you get elected to the Board of Assessors, you actually have to go to class and be certified by the Department of Revenue to serve on that board. Selectmen don't, advisory don't, DPW doesn't, nobody else has to be certified to do the job we do. And those of you who are a little older and can remember, we had a member of the chairman of the Board of Assessors, had also been a longtime selectman, Ed Quill will know who I'm talking about, refused to take the certification course because he bragged, I could have written that book. Well, the Department of Revenue made him stand down. He had to get off the board. And that's what I mean when I say you have professionals in these positions. The Board of Assessors, now and in the foreseeable future, are better qualified than any town manager on the planet to appoint your chief assessor, because we know what to look for, we know what questions to ask, and we know when they don't get it right. We're very lucky to have the current chief assessor that we have. She's extraordinarily bright, amazing with numbers. She makes our job easy. Yes, we come in every couple of weeks, but she runs the office, and she should run the office. That's all I have to say.
Chair recognizes Deb Wall.
I just wanted to make a point about the library trustees being somewhat of an exception, and I realized Tim said they had not gotten an official legal opinion. When I read this article, I did research. I talked to other towns that had gone through this transition. I also called the state, Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners. And the way the state law reads, the board shall have the custody and management of the library and reading room and of all property owned by the town relating thereto. All money raised or appropriated by the town for its support and maintenance shall be expended by the board. And it goes on, I don't need to bore you, but their interpretation is that the trustees manage library staff and the funds thereto. Just a point of clarification.
Chair recognizes,
Doesn't matter, it's not important.
just your first name again.
Sean.
Sean, okay.
A couple things. One, Tim Brennan mentioned earlier, and while I'm totally on board with the town manager position, I am. There was a question about the legality of the library. Maybe we're just not ready for this right now. Maybe we need a little bit more clarity on this. Maybe we need to move forward. All right? A lot of people here have problems with what's going on in town, okay? It's a $63 million budget. We have $70,000 in free cash. There's obviously an issue somewhere, okay? Obviously there's an issue. Why rush it? I know they've been doing a lot of work. They've been on it for years. We're not ready yet. Let's move the question. Let's get this over with.
Well, the chair would say you cannot move the question after you've spoken.
No
It's
problem.
like
Somebody else move it then.
It's like, so the chair recognizes Dan Tribuco.
The town is ready for it. The town is ready for it. And it just, there's something that makes me wonder. Everyone that's against this and has spoken against it tonight say the town is broken. Someone has to do something about it. We have to fix it, but not this. This is what it is. We're here tonight. This is we're gonna help fix the town for now and in the future, folks. Do not vote no on Libby's amendment, because we need the town manager to be strong when someday Ed's going to retire. Someday Tom Brady's going to retire, Ed's going to retire someday. We're going to have to replace him. When that happens, we need a strong town manager bylaw, one that is black and white, so we can attract the best managers from all over the state, all over the region, all over the country that want to come to Pembroke, because they know they don't have to deal with small-minded people that want their own little fiefdom in the Board of Assessors, in this board, in that board. We want the next town manager to know exactly what he's going to do, know what his duties are, his responsibilities are, and who reports to him. That's what we're trying to do here. That's because we're going to get the best person possible. That's what we'd like to do.
Chair recognizes Ann Stanton.
All right, one more time. Could we please move Libby's? I'd like to move Libby's amendment, please.
The motion has been made and seconded to move the question, which before us now is Libby Bates's amendment, which is, to refresh, to amend Section 4A, Powers of Appointment. Are we removing the words exempting or adding the word? We're adding the words accepting the position of Chief Assessor. Where is Libby? Is that correct? You're going to have to. So inserting the word in Section 4A, Powers of Appointment, inserting the word accepting the position. Accepting? No. We need to get this straight. So accept the position of chief assessor? Okay, I'm reading your writing here, which says accepting, so, right. We need to get this straight, so if you could come down here and then we could just get this straight, because we can't do any further business until this is correct. No. That doesn't do the clerk any good.
Accepting, this is calling for a provision, and you're accepting from that provision the position of chief assessor.
How about striking?
Accept.
How about strike?
Accept. Accept.
All right, so the motion by Libby Bates is to amend Section 4A, powers of appointment, to add the words, "accept the position of chief assessor." That is the amendment that's before us. We'll go the amendment first, and then we go back to the main question. On the amendment from Libby Bates, all those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, raise your hand. The noes have it, and I declare it lost. Chair recognizes
Maureen Robinson.
Maureen Robinson.
I'll tell you something. I am totally confused, and I think a lot of people here are. To come out here and add things on to a warrant, several things on, go to Section D, this, that, add this sentence, add that sentence, go to the next one, add this, then to go back and say, take this out, I don't think we're ready for this. I think that I would like to have more of a in-depth and qualifications, and not add it on, not take it apart, just set it up and give it to the people to vote on. I'm not against the town manager, but I will say one thing. I've worked in town halls where we've had town managers, and what they have there is a human resource office, and they do the hiring, and they do the firing. They do the hiring because they can go into in-depth knowledge of what each department needs. So I really think that you should think about hiring a human resource person along with a town manager, because a town manager can't do everything. And I think that I really would like to see this wait until the next town meeting and let everyone get everything correct and present it to the people correctly. Thank you.
Chair recognizes, I know you spoke earlier, and
Carolyn Crosley, Water Street.
right into the microphone.
Carolyn Crosley, Water Street. I'd like to move the question.
Thank you.
Question. The motion has been made to move the question. It's non-debatable. We are on the main motion now that Timothy Brennan made some time ago. On that motion to move the question, all those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. The ayes have it, and we will go to the main motion made by Timothy Brennan, which made several amendments to the article as printed in the warrant. All those in favor of Timothy's motion, please raise your hand. All those opposed, I declare it so voted. The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. There appears to be 2 items of business left, and the next article is 19.
Question on the vote.
Well, Who's questioning the vote?
I just questioned, was that just a straightforward vote, the most for win and the most against?
Yes, and it was not close in the chair's estimation. So we have an article before us, and someone needs to make a motion. The chair is under the impression that DPW is going to make the motion on this article. Well, can I use your name, Steve? Yeah. So the chair moves. It's getting late. We have 2 items left. Steve Curley moves that no action be taken on Article 19. This was one of the ones that was approved, contingency measure approved as part of the budget deliberations. So since that was the case, there is no need to take action on this item, but it's your decision. All those favoring to take no action on Article 19, please raise your hand. All those opposed? The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. And we are down to 1, right? Article 4 is the last item of business. And before everyone scoots out, the chair appreciates the level of debate, the patience, and the work by everyone who's put work into this town meeting, particularly the advisory committee. And the chair recognizes Jim McCollum from advisory.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $2,041,138 from water revenues to fund the FY19 Water Enterprise Fund as shown in Appendix B of this warrant.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. The chair will entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The meeting is adjourned, and the chair once again thanks you.